I'd like to call the, I don't have the date here, the January 20th, 2026 open forum session to order. Let's start with roll call.
Mayor Hidalgo Faring.
Here.
Councilmember Christ.
Present.
Councilmember Kalkofer.
Here.
Councilmember Marsing.
Here.
Councilmember McCoy.
Present.
Councilmember Popkin.
Present.
And Councilmember Prieto.
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Great, let's stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so the only thing on our agenda tonight is the open forum. Tonight, each speaker will be given 5 minutes and an opportunity for 1 or 2 council people to respond if necessary. And so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to do the best I can with the names. So I don't know if you've picked up on this. It is not in our rules of procedure for you to publicly, on record, in front of the camera, state your address. I do ask you to put your address on here especially during our regular session when our first call, public invited to be heard, is designated for City of Longmont employees and Longmont residents. But if you can, please restate your name for the record. One, because I know I'm going to botch up some of these names here, just because, just reading, yeah. my eyesight. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with Nick Alfonso.
Nope, that's not right. Hold on, Nick, real quick. Okay, sorry about that, Nick. There you go.
Hi, I'm Nick Alfonso, resident of Longmont.
Oh, can you turn on your microphone, please? There you go.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Nick Alfonso. I'm a resident of Longmont. I wanted to first talk about the flock cameras in Longmont. I'm extremely pleased with the community for showing out and speaking up against the flock cameras. Very happy that the contract is going to be ended soon. I am curious, though, on when the cameras will be coming down. If there's some legal gray area, I've heard also towns deploying caps to put on the cameras as well, or covers in their interim. I'd also like to talk about the elephant in the room of my daily thoughts, and I hope everyone else's, which is the violent goons that the current administration has been unleashing to terrorize cities across America. We need to have resolutions and laws to combat ICE terror here within Longmont. That means banning them from covering their faces, making violations actionable, punishable by arrest. That means banning law enforcement from cooperating with ICE. That means filing restraining orders against ICE in city-owned buildings, schools, or on public land. Every tool in your toolkit needs to be used against these thugs. If you think escalation isn't coming here or to a city nearby, you're wrong. If you think they're not going to knock on your door and harass you eventually, you're wrong. I would like to also urge my community members who showed out to speak against the flock camera surveillance system to recognize that they should also be outraged by the escalation of ICE violence and the threat that it poses to you and your neighbors. Recognize that the surveillance tech that you see around you is the same technology that powers ICE's terrorism and is the same technology that surveils and leads to the dispossession and endless murder of our world neighbors in Palestine. Abolish ICE and free Palestine. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, and then I'm actually going to call the next 5 people, and if you could just come have a seat up front, we have mints for you all. So the next name on the list is Hep Ingham, and then following that, if Kat Bradley Bennett can come forward, Matt Bible, Emmy Friedman, Steve Brinham, Yeah, I don't know.
Uh,
Brinkman? Maybe Brinkman? So. Okay.
you just hang on there.
Yep, and just hang on there. And 1, 2. So we have Kat, Matt, Emmy, and Steve. Is that correct? If you all can come sit up front. Emmy? Friedman? Oh, there you are. Okay. So go ahead. You may begin.
Yeah.
And restate your name, please. Yeah.
Yeah, Heppingham. I live in Boulder County, a little bit east of Boulder. And all around the country, all the different
Go ahead.
aviation groups and pilot groups around the country, they've kind of got a mantra of, why are we under attack and we're losing our freedom? And they never think to ask why that's happening. And all around the country has been this massive increase in flights, extension of operating times for the airports, and then the airplanes flying off course. And as I learned with my own dealings with the FAA when this was happening to me from Boulder's airport, I found out, meeting with the FAA inspectors, every single one of them was a pilot, and 3 of them owned airplanes, and I don't know what business they had going on with that, but I think we need to remember that the FAA is not a neutral regulatory agency. It's captured, and their goal is to maintain their own entitlement and their privileges. And this is how it is across the country with all the different citizens groups that are rising up. It's not because they just woke up one day and wanted to get rid of the airports. It's been an ongoing problem. And as I found out a couple years getting into it, is the lead and the noise is very harmful. We had an expert, Bruce Lanphier, came to Boulder a couple months ago, and he gave a talk, and just the lead around Boulder Airport is probably causing a 1 to 5 point drop in IQ for the children living in San Lazaro and Monte Vista trailer parks. And so, you know, we've got involved and we've been trying to organize to fight back against this. And one thing everybody learns is that going through the FAA is a dead end. And the higher you go up in government, the more restrictive it is. And really the only thing that works, there's really 2 things that work, is one, for the proprietors of the airport to use their sovereignty to fight back and just enforce the existing rules, because that's what's being broken. The FAA will not enforce any of its own guidelines, and you as the proprietor of this airport here at Vance Brand, you have a lot of power and a lot of leeway in what you can do to help it make it better for your citizens. And you know, it's just the whole idea of continuing to burn leaded fuel, thinking that HB 1235 is going to make a difference. They're going to offer unleaded fuel. These old planes, they're not going to pay the difference. I mean, I remember John Kinney, the manager at Boulder, you know, he said, yeah, these guys are not, they don't even want to pay the $15 a month to rent their coffin spaces for their gliders. So they're not going to pay the extra money. And the last 6 times that there's been a chance to change to unleaded fuel has been blown through. So check out the article by Ariel Wittenberg in ProPublica. That's from 2 years ago. But really, getting back to what can be done, there's 2 things. One is the proprietors can actually use their sovereignty and help protect the people on the ground. And then the other thing is for everybody that's here, is for the community to sign up with Resilient Communities or from any local active group, and then start looking into filing lawsuits against the different flight companies and the individual pilots, because, you know, as you know, the city is immune and for the lawsuits for any activity that's done at the airport, but you know, the aviation groups are not. And so that's really the only 2 ways, is for you guys to come together and use your power to inflict a little bit of justice, and just get the aviation groups to follow the rules, abide by the noise limitations, and the operating times, and that's really the best way to go. And then the second best way to go is for the community behind me is to join up and then start filing lawsuits. And unfortunately, that's the way it is when you've got a captured agency like the FAA that's totally staffed by pilots, and they have a severe conflict of interest, but they don't seem to recognize that. So it's really up to you.
Great, thank you. Okay, next person, Kat Bradley Bennett.
Yes, it is Kat Bradley Bennett. I'm a longtime Longmont resident. I'm a Boulder County native. And in a previous life, I worked 15 years for the Longmont EcoCycle program. Yes, we actually had such a thing. I'm a longtime dedicated recycler, composter, overall waste reducer. But I'm also a lifelong birdwatcher, nature lover, and supporter of open space. My father taught me the importance of supporting open space and often reminded me that our public lands are not for sale or trade. That's why I was very relieved to see the proposed land swap between the Tull and Distel properties for a composting facility finally die the ugly death it's so richly deserved. I'm in favor of a countywide composting facility, but it needs to be adequately planned and designed to prevent microplastic contamination, and it needs to be properly placed, and that is not in a flood zone and not in or next to protected open space. Council got a lot of backlash from the public when we learned what was in store for the Tull and Distel properties, and that's not at all what we want for our public open spaces. Despite the stated goal on our city open space site, one of the goals being to embrace public engagement. We, the people, had no say in that matter whatsoever. Longmont voters overwhelmingly approved a permanent open space tax because we want our open space areas safeguarded from development, period. From what I could tell, that whole land swap wasn't even instigated by our open space department, but other city departments. So the bottom line is this: our wetlands and our wildlife corridors need to be respected and protected. That's the whole meaning of open space. At the very least, we need safeguards in our open space policies to prevent further manipulations like we had with Tull and Distel. And I would say better adherence to this goal of public engagement. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. And I don't think I clarified to our new members. So if there was a clarifying question you have for the resident, or if you wanted to ask a question, you can go ahead and put your light on. I know you've been here before, but our new people. So I'm not talking to folks who've been here before, but to our new members. So thank you.
So no questions, all set.
Okay, very good. So the next, Matt.
Yep. All right, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Are we ready?
Yes. And can you please state your name?
Yes, Matt Bible.
Okay.
Thank you again for the opportunity. Just going to reiterate a few things from the previous speaker about the airport. We found them not to be very good neighbors. They don't pay attention to their own rules. They don't fly in the designated airspaces. They don't fly at the designated height. And they're just, make a lot of noise, drop a lot of lead. And it's mostly the gliders and schools. And they're just doing touch and goes on and on. And you're never going to change a thing if you take money from the FAA. The only way to do this is the people of Longmont should have control of that airport and decide what they want to do with it and how they want it to operate. And every time you take money from the FAA, you lose that ability to do it. They will not listen to any reasoning of how the pilot should behave or how the operations on the airport should go. So good luck, and I hope you take heed and don't take their money.
Great, thank you. Okay, Emmy Friedman. And then if Steve Brinkman, if you're here, oh yeah, okay, you're nearby. Michael Havinsky, Gwen Steele, and Andrew Barton, if you all can make your way to the front. Okay, and then just turn on your mic. I think it's on your right side.
It's red.
Is it on? Is it
Red.
red? Oh, I
Red.
can't even see it
Oh,
from my
I had to
angle.
look.
Okay, no, you're good.
The world was not made for short people.
Oh, I hear you.
My name is Amy Friedman. I live in Longmont. I have 3 points I'd like to make, and first of all, thank you for having me speak. I have 3 points I'd like to make. If you were listening to the pilots at the AAB and CC meetings and reading your mail in your inboxes over the past few months, let me provide a little bit broader context to some of the myths that the pilots speak about. Myth number 1, we are way off our master plan. That's not the immediate issue. The master plan process costs approximately $1 to $1.5 million and takes 1 to 3 years to undergo. The city of Longmont would have responsibility for a share of that. It's not already integrated in the long-term capital improvement planning. This would be a hard thing to force to happen. For example, our MMA, a much larger airport with greater needs and more substantial changes, has not updated their master plan since 2011. And while it was initially scheduled for 2018, it is now looking like 2028 and keeps getting pushed out further. This is unlikely to happen in the near future, and the funding for this happens at the expense of other FAA-funded projects. This only proves the need for landing fees, as they would move our airport closer to being able to execute on its master plan. Our airport doesn't even have enough funds for needed capital reserves, which should be covered before any master plan projects. A proper financial foundation is needed before a master plan can be implemented. The airport only has, my next point is hangars. The airport only has ground leases at the moment. Would further hangar development consist of ground leases as well? The potential economic upside of this is limited, which can be easily measured by evaluating the revenue generated by existing ground leases. To realize the revenue potential from building additional hangars, the city of Longmont would have to develop the hangars to profit off of them. Where would that capital come from? Who would guide the development or administer the leases? For example, Erie had this discussion October 16th, seeking information on what it would look like. It is not the economic boon that it is made out to be. What it does represent is a large additional cost to the airport in terms of capital improvements like taxiway access, additional administrative costs, and potential added liability, while adding very little revenue via ground leases and nothing more. While the hangars can be a revenue source, there needs to be funds to build the hangars, which we simply do not have. On the other hand, landing fees can be implemented without major capital expenditures that could eventually lead to the ability to build hangars. Hangars alone, even if they were funded, will not be enough to address the airport's financial needs. Myth number 3, we need a special events fee because Sundance is coming. If there is an uptick in traffic for Sundance, they will likely use the nearby RMMA, which has much longer and a stronger runway, as well as services designed for private jet and charter traffic. Boulder has also its own municipal airport for smaller private planes. There are many airports within a 20-mile radius of Boulder that serve many functions. Longmont is not essential to serving this function for 2 weeks out of the year. Those who have the means to travel privately to Boulder for this event will also have the means to pay for the landing fees for this privilege, as if evidenced by the special events fees at other airports. For example, the current airport for Sundance in Utah, Heber Valley, it does charge landing fees. I think the landing fees are going to help us answer a lot of discrepancy with our budget. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. Okay, Steve Brinkman.
Howdy, Steve Brinkman here. I've been a resident, I've owned my ranch out west of here for about 33 years. Been on the Hygiene Fire Department for 32 of those years. It's been a tough road. I've been coming to these meetings for the last 3 or 4 months, learning a lot about the airport and how it is that the amount of traffic has gone up so drastically in the last couple of years, and how much lead these planes are spewing down on the residents. It's a disaster happening out there, and it needs to be addressed pretty quickly. There's going to be, there's problems happening already and more problems coming down the pike. I think that my impression of the airport, having been there for 33 years and watching the planes come and go, that over the last 2 years, I would say that probably the right answer is the airport should close. And I say that because there's a lot of things I like to do in this county that getting rid of that airport would support, like connecting Pella Crossing to the St. Vrain Trail thing and creating a bunch of parks out there and getting rid of all the hassle that we're having here about the airport not being able to afford itself. And it's a rundown dive out there. And if anyone who's been out there, it's not a nice airport. And I've spent quite a bit of time at the Rocky Mountain Airport down there in Broomfield, and it's a much nicer facility. So anyway, we should really consider what we're doing with that 800 acres of land out there and find something better to do with it than an airport. Thank you very much.
Okay. Councilmember Popkins, so hold on. Sir?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you're not done yet.
No, I'll let you off the hook mostly. I just wanted to respond to a couple of the airport comments, so you can sit down if you want. I was just going to generally address. I mean, you can stretch your legs if you're enjoying that. I just wanted to mostly let folks know, one, the airport's not going to close. We have grant obligations for a decade plus, if not 2 decades there. However, traffic, you're not wrong. Traffic has increased, especially coming out of COVID, especially with pilot shortages. Traffic has increased for training flights and a lot of things. So we're well aware of that. And then for folks who were interested in understanding kind of like what's going on with the fees, what's going on with all of that, we are, I believe, in the middle of or working with a outside consultant partner to conduct a rates and charges study right now. That will give us information to make a well-informed decision as to kind of what types of fee structures we should have. So just wanted to let people know kind of where we are in that process. It's not going over our heads, unlike some of the planes, and we're keeping that in mind.
And so the 20-year commitment we have with the FAA, the right decision isn't always the easy decision. So, 20 years, it goes by like that, believe me. I've been here 33 years. So if you don't start the right decision now, 20 years down the line, you're going to be out here messing with the same stuff, fighting to fund the airport, and it's not worth it. Fight to get rid of the FAA. There's something I can get behind.
Okay.
Appreciate your
Thank you.
comments, sir. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, Michael Habinski?
You nailed it.
Oh, good.
Hi, I'm Michael Habinski. Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you for taking the time to host this forum. I'm here as part of Ranked Choice Voting for Longmont. We're a local nonpartisan volunteer organization whose mission is simple: to make our city's elections more fair, more representative, and more welcoming to participation. Over the past year, we've been talking with Longmont residents, collecting signatures, and building momentum. Several hundred Longmonters signed our petition in support of ranked choice voting, and we're thrilled that last year, Mayor, you proposed that a formal study session on the topic, and the council agreed, and that's a real milestone, and we are grateful for it. So tonight, we'll be presenting a fast, focused 5-person overview. I'll start with a quick explanation of what ranked choice voting is and how Longmont City Council elections are currently run. Then Gwen and Andrew will talk about the benefits of ranked choice voting, and Dylan, the executive director and co-founder of our organization, will address common questions and about the process of implementing it and share some real-world success or real-world results from places where it's currently being used. And finally, Tao will wrap it up with a broader perspective and some next steps. So what is ranked choice voting? Well, let's say it lets you rank your candidates in the order of preference instead of just picking one, right? So let's say we're choosing a favorite color. I love indigo, and I'd still be happy with blue or green. With ranked choice voting, I can vote for my true favorite, indigo, first, then I'll rank blue second and green third. Since I didn't have to just pick one, if indigo doesn't win, my vote isn't lost. It goes to my next choice. So I get to vote honestly, and my vote still helps to decide the outcome. After all, I shouldn't have to choose between voting for my favorite and having any voice at all. So that's ranked choice voting in a nutshell. But since we're proposing a change, I'd like to take a couple minutes to describe how Longmont City Council elections are run today. I know council and most people listening already know this, but I'd like to go over it real quick just for context. So Longmont has 7 council members, the mayor, and 3 at-large council members who represent the whole city, and then 3 council members who represent Longmont's 3 wards. We vote every odd-numbered year, and each time we elect the mayor and 3 council members. Every other election, we get to elect 2 at-large council members at the same time in a single race, and the ballot says vote for no more than 2. Other than that, each member is elected in a separate race, and the ballot says vote for 1. So each race is decided by plurality voting. For a single seat, that means that the candidate that gets more votes than any other single candidate wins. The system is simple, and it works perfectly when there are 2 candidates to choose from. But when there are more than 2, there are real problems. And how it breaks down is that a candidate can win with less than half the votes. So in a crowded race, you can produce winners who most voters don't actually want. When multiple strong candidates appeal to the same voters, the votes get split between them. So strong candidates feel pressure to drop out so they don't spoil the race by splitting the vote. And voters feel pressure to vote strategically, voting based on how they think other people are going to vote, instead of simply choosing their own favorite. This pushes voters to prioritize voting against the candidates they don't support, instead of voting for the ones they do. Maybe in another city where elections are between 2 candidates, this wouldn't matter much. But in Longmont, we have a vibrant democracy. We have a very high level of civic engagement. Our elections have lots of candidates, each of which has a unique and thoughtful perspective. And that's a good thing, but plurality voting punishes us for that. In the most recent city council race, multiple candidates publicly worried that their candidacy might split the vote and actually make it harder for voters to elect council members with broad support. That's a terrible dilemma. It forces would-be candidates to choose between running honestly and protecting the integrity of the election. And so I think no one should have to worry that just by running for public office, they might actually make their democracy worse. There has to be a better way. So why are we here in support of ranked choice voting? Because we should be free to vote our conscience. The winners of our elections should reflect the will of the majority, and we should be able to know and trust that every one of our voices counts, even when our first choice doesn't win. That's what ranked choice voting provides. Instead of splitting votes, ranked choice voting builds coalitions. Instead of strategic voting, it rewards honest voting. And instead of confusion and uncertainty in crowded races, it produces clear winners with broad support. It lets us keep all the great things about Longmont's democracy, lots of candidates, lots of ideas, without paying a penalty for it. So without foundation, I'm excited to hand it over to Gwen, who's going to walk you through how ranked choice voting actually works in single winner and multi-winner elections, and why it's such a powerful improvement. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, Gwen, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and members of City Council. I'm Gwen Steele. Like Michael, who spoke before me, I am also here with Ranked Choice Voting for Longmont. I want to take this opportunity to talk about how exactly Ranked Choice Voting works and describe the specific benefits it offers over plurality voting, our current method. In ranked choice elections, instead of picking a single candidate, voters have the opportunity to rank candidates for a given office in their order of preference. Election officials then use these rankings to allocate voters' votes and determine one or more winners. Colorado law currently authorizes municipalities to use 2 forms of ranked choice voting, or RCV. That includes single winner RCV and multi-winner RCV. RCV elections are counted in successive rounds until all seats have been filled, but voters only have to cast a single ballot. Each ballot counts for the voter's first ranked choice until that candidate is either elected or eliminated. In a single winner RCV election, a candidate must receive a majority or more than 50% of the vote in order to win. If a candidate has a majority of the vote in the first round of counting, they win. If no candidate has a majority in the first round, the candidate with the fewest votes is eliminated, and their voters' votes are redistributed to the next highest ranked preference.
rounds of elimination and redistribution continue until a candidate has a majority, at which point they are declared the winner. Single winner RCV prevents voters from worrying about the spoiler effect or having to vote strategically. The spoiler effect refers to situations where 2 or more similarly aligned candidates in a plurality election with 3 or more candidates split the vote, allowing a different candidate preferred only by a minority of voters to prevail. By requiring the winning candidate to receive a majority of the vote and allowing voters' votes to be redistributed to other candidates in the event that their first choice can't win, RCV prevents the spoiler effect and ensures that the winner is the candidate preferred by the majority of voters. Because of the spoiler effect, voters often feel a pressure to vote strategically. This means casting a ballot not for your favorite candidate, but for a candidate you can live with, who you think has a good chance of winning. In some situations, strategic voting is also called voting for the lesser of two evils. RCV prevents voters from having to think this way when casting their ballots. In the event their first choice can't win, their ballot will simply count for their second choice, and so on and so forth. This allows voters to confidently vote for their honest favorite, knowing their ballot will count for an alternative preference if their first choice can't win. Both of the primary benefits of single winner RCV, no more spoiler effect and no more pressure for strategic voting, are shared by multi-winner RCV. Additionally, multi-winner RCV is a form of proportional representation, meaning that the group of winners in a multi-winner RCV election will generally reflect the ideological and demographic makeup of the electorate that voted for them. For example, in a 3-winner RCV election, where 2/3 of voters identify as liberal and 1/3 as conservative, you can expect the group of winners to be 2 liberals and 1 conservative. Proportional representation is important because it allows voters to elect candidates of choice even if they don't happen to represent the majority persuasion within an electorate, giving everyone their fair share of the say. Proportional representation also maximizes the electoral strength of the protected classes, as Andrew will discuss next. In conclusion, both single winner and multi-winner RCV foster competitive elections, honest voting, and representative outcomes. It is simple for voters to understand, easy for communities to implement, and has a major positive impact on the quality of elections. With those benefits in mind, I'll turn it over to Andrew, who will share some additional information about how RCV can strengthen our local democracy. Thank you so much for your time.
Great, thank you. Andrew, go ahead. And then Dylan and Tal, if you two want to come down as well, just keep the momentum going.
Okay, so that's perfect. Awesome, thank you. My name is Andrew Barton, speaking both as a resident of Longmont and program manager for Colorado Common Cause. We are a nonpartisan nonprofit dedicated to fighting for a more equitable, representative, and accessible democracy and government. Here to speak in support of the proposal to update Longmont's election system for municipal races to a ranked choice voting system to make our municipal elections more democratic and more representative of the diversity within our community. Longmont today is about 25% or so Hispanic Latino and about 35% non-white generally. And while Ward 3 does contain a significant portion of our Latino population, voters of color across the city are largely dispersed, at least across ward boundaries. And so this means that many residents of color don't consistently have the electoral power to within our winner-take-all system to reliably elect candidates of their choice. And the at-large seats have a similar problem of being structured to make it harder for protected class voters to win if there are too many candidates running. We're very fortunate to have a council that is very reflective of our community at large, but it's also important to recognize that representation is not a given. Last year, Colorado passed the Colorado Voting Rights Act, a landmark piece of legislation designed to strengthen the protection specifically against voter dilution and voter suppression, especially at the local level. And one of the main things that the State Voting Rights Act does is give both voters and community members and community organizations stronger legal tools to address election practices that dilute the voting power of protected classes, those being minority voters of race, ethnicity, and language minority group. And the State Voting Rights Act is explicitly focused on supporting voters who have historically faced barriers to fair representation, especially for voters of color, multilingual voters, and first-time and often young voters. One of the most significant structural barriers that these voters face is the kind of winner-take-all election system. In the system, candidates can and often do win with less than a majority of the vote, while communities with shared interests and shared identity see their collective voice weakened just because there are multiple candidates within a race. I kind of go into this because it's important to look at, not just look at a single election that produced a fairly representative council and determine that reform is unnecessary from that. Our current system doesn't and did not and does not guarantee that result. Winner-take-all elections often force voters to choose between the lesser of two evils. It discourages candidates from running to avoid splitting the vote and harms all minority communities when their support is split across multiple districts or multiple candidates within one district. This is something that we see in municipal elections pretty much every year and in pretty much every city. Unlike federal law, the State Voting Rights Act doesn't require protected communities to be geographically concentrated in order to receive the protection from the anti-voter dilution, voter suppression protections. And adopting ranked choice directly addresses that issue, both of concentrated and unconcentrated vote dilution, and allows voters to support candidates who genuinely reflect their values without fear of wasting their vote, and allows candidates to run without acting as spoilers. And especially in multi-winner formats like our Vote for Two at-large race, it makes sure that minority voting groups can reliably translate their electoral strength into tangible representation on council. And beginning in 2027, many Colorado municipalities will be required to modernize their election practices, including expanding multilingual ballot access, improving voter education, as well as looking at things like election timing and election method. And so Longmont really has the opportunity to be a leader here and proactively adopt a modern, community-oriented election system. So by transitioning to ranked choice voting here in Longmont, we'll be able to protect the voice of all residents within our democracy, meet and exceed those anti-voter dilution standards within the State Voting Rights Act, and ensure that our elections and government accurately and authentically reflect the community that we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Dylan Rankin?
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor Hidalgo Faring and members of City Council. My name is Dylan Rankin. I'm the Executive Director for Ranked Choice Voting for Longmont, and kind of building on what the last three speakers have shared with you, I am here tonight, surprise, surprise, to support the use of ranked choice voting in Longmont municipal elections. And I want to use my time to kind of talk about two really common misconceptions about ranked choice voting. The first misconception I want to touch on is this idea that in spite of all the benefits that Gwen and Andrew just shared with you, ranked choice is somehow like challenging for voters to understand, or that it makes it harder for them to cast their ballots. The simple fact is this isn't true, and ranked choice voting has been implemented in enough communities across the country by now that we have the data to prove it. For example, an Edison research poll conducted after New York City's 2021 ranked choice voting election, which was its first to occur under ranked choice voting, concluded that 95% of voters found ranked choice ballots easy to complete. According to the same poll, 83% chose to rank more than one candidate, and 77% said they'd like to continue using ranked choice voting in future municipal elections. These figures highlight the degree to which voters not only understand but embrace alternative voting methods when they are implemented, and New Yorkers are not alone in these positions. A 2022 poll found that 85% of Alaskans thought a recently conducted ranked choice voting municipal election was easy to vote in. And according to Utah Valley University, 89% of Utah voters surveyed in 2021 were satisfied with their RCV voting experience. Additionally, numerous studies from the University of Missouri at St. Louis and the University of Louisiana conclude that ranked choice voting does not increase the share of rejected ballots that do not count for any candidate. I want to emphasize that these findings are the norm, not the exception. And they're the result of both the intuitive nature of ranked choice voting and voter education efforts conducted by jurisdictions and their election administrators to ensure voters are familiar with how to fill out their new ballots. If Longmont were to move to ranked choice, it would actually be required by state law to conduct such a voter education campaign. And the Boulder County Clerk's Office already has experience running such a campaign. So all in all, there's absolutely nothing inherently complicated or confusing about ranked choice voting. It's just a simple way to tangibly improve our elections. And secondly, I want to offer a few responses to the perception that ranked choice voting is logistically challenging for municipalities like Longmont to implement. First and foremost, the procedures for running a ranked choice voting election are basically identical to those used to run a plurality election. And in the few areas where they do differ, not only have an array of best practices already been developed by election administrators across the country, but extensive support is available to assist in implementation. The election equipment used by both the Boulder and Weld County Clerk's Office is already ranked choice voting compatible, so there's no software or hardware upgrades necessary. And on top of all of this, the Boulder County Clerk and Recorder's Office has already got experience conducting a ranked choice voting election for the city of Boulder. And so basically, Longmont could not begin an effort to seamlessly and successfully implement ranked choice voting from a stronger position. And of course, our organization stands ready to help wherever and however possible. So I hope that in addition to the other benefits we've already talked to you about, it's clear that ranked choice voting is both easy for voters to understand and easy for election administrators to implement. From New York City to Salt Lake City, Alaska to Maine, or even just our neighbors down the diagonal in Boulder, ranked choice has already been successfully adopted in a wide variety of jurisdictions across the country, and we're really excited for Longmont to explore the possibility of being next. So thanks again for the opportunity to speak at tonight's open forum, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have before I turn it over to Tal to close out our set of remarks. But
Okay,
thanks
do
so
we
much.
have any questions? Yes. Councilmember Marcin.
Thanks, Mayor. It's not really a question so much as it is a thank you to folks for organizing and coming out. It's always impressive when I've watched these open forums in the past when folks get out and get organized and care enough about an issue to do that. And just for public edification, I know there's been some offline discussion. Staff is working on making sure that this gets on a study session agenda in the future per council direction and the mayor's motion that was made. It will happen. It's a question of scheduling among a number of priorities, but it is
Yes.
it's on the list.
100%.
And it's coming down, yeah. We
Yeah.
have, we've already been in conversations,
Yep.
so perfect. But
Yep,
thanks for
just for
letting the
public,
public
yep.
know.
Yep.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it's coming first quarter.
We're excited.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Tal Minkar?
Minier.
Oh, okay. I apologize. Thank you for
It's all
repeating your
right.
name.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. My name is Tal Minier, and I am the last of speakers affiliated with ranked choice voting for Longmont. By now, you've heard how the two forms of ranked choice voting authorized in Colorado law work, and the number of different ways they could improve our municipal elections. Ranked choice ensures that voters aren't punished for expressing their honest choices, that candidates can run without fear of acting as a spoiler, and that results reflect the will of the electorate. When used to elect two or more winners at once, it makes sure groups within the electorate are proportionally represented on elected bodies, and that protected class voters have an equal opportunity to elect representatives of choice. Furthermore, ranked choice voting is easy for voters to understand and engage with, and easy for Colorado municipalities to implement. Generally speaking, it is a no-brainer to help protect and strengthen our vibrant local democracy, while setting an example for other communities across the state to follow. We're really excited that City Council agrees that ranked choice voting is a topic that deserves to be studied in depth, and we want to especially extend our thanks to you, Mayor Hidalgo Ferring, for your leadership on this issue. Our big ask, as you probably can guess, is whenever you're able, we'd love to have a definitive date for when the ranked choice study session will be held, so that we can continue to spread the word, engage folks out in the community, and get more interested people involved. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so the next group I'd like to call down, Georgetta Johnston, Chris Alred, Keith Hughes, Mike Schnauzmeyer, okay, and Paul Beard. Oh, and before you get started, Georgetta, Councilmember Popkin.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't make the group just get back up again. I just wanted to directly debate all of them who are sitting ferociously staring at me. No, I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out and speaking on that issue. I'll echo the Councilmember Marsing's comments and thank Mayor Hidalgo-Ferring for her leadership on this. I think education really matters if you're going to change how elections work. And so I appreciate people taking the time to try to educate members of your community in multiple different settings. And just a quick show of hands for everyone in the room. How many of you felt like you've had to vote for the lesser of two evils at some point in an election? We don't have to talk about municipal elections, but.
Anything, yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
let's not.
Oh, we're not going to. Thank you very much.
Who's the fourth one?
Okay, great. Yeah, I have Georgetta, Chris, Keith, Mike, and Paul. So I think they're either in the front row or working their way down. Okay, Georgetta, you may begin.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman. Thank you for letting us talk tonight. And some of you don't know me, but some of you do. I've been here 81 years, so I've lived here. And I want a good city, and I've come and said about a few things that we need, and it hasn't came up yet, but hopefully it will. A good city. We need an indoor, outdoor, ice skate, hockey, roller skate for the young people instead of breweries and marijuana so much. I don't know what the situation is, but every place else, other towns are building and are getting them. And that's good for the family besides all ages. And the arts and entertainment, that's another thing that we have to go elsewhere for all that stuff. And I don't know why we're not looking into that kind of stuff. Buffet restaurants, also we have to go out of town. Instead of here, it's hamburgers, chicken, fish, tacos. We once had them, and I don't understand why we don't. We have to go out of town. That's your business, see? And the other thing's your business. Better clothing stores, that's another thing that probably some of you people go elsewhere to shop. And so, you know what? That's not keeping it in here because it doesn't have good selections. And I'm just telling you the truth. Johnstown, Loveland, Fort Collins, Denver. I mean, seriously, I'm just telling you in a nice way. And I'm hoping that you're thinking about that and seeing why we can't do that. We're having a lot of housing, and we do need housing. We can't house everybody. But we need some of these better shopping things and stores and stuff. Sure, we're getting some that have just little few situations. And I don't know what you think, but surely you think the same thing, that we do need those things like that. We've got a couple nice swimming and the recreation. That's very nice. But we need some other things for the young people, too, instead of teaching them to be drug addicts or alcoholics or, you know what I'm saying, in a real nice way. I have grandchildren. I have one child now, and grandchildren, great. We know of people. And we want a good city. And the way we'll have a good city is get some things here to bless them with, entertain them with, So, and I used to work for the schools. I've also worked for the hospitals. My husband was on the council. Oh, he wasn't on the council, but he was on the senior board, and he's passed now. And so I participate in some of those things, too, to see. That's why I come to talk. Somebody told me, well, you're having it tonight for 5 minutes. So I said, well, I need to go and tell him again, what is the situation? One of these days, that's going to get where we're going to get it there. And the airport, I hear the airport. I feel like we need the airport, but they need to improve it and work it out and keep it as far as I'm concerned, but not have situations that aren't good for all of us in the wrong way. Because I want a good city, and the way we have a good city is all of us working together. Looks like we're getting a lot of young people. So hopefully you got the knowledge and the understanding that you want a good city. Anyway, thank you for letting me talk. And if anybody has anything what you think about it, Lord bless you.
Great. Does anyone have any questions for Georgetta or comments? And if you are wanting to open a buffet, we will support you 100%.
Well, you know what? I'm a little old for that now, but you know what? you could advertise it. I've been here lots of times, and you usually have somebody that works on people that wants to do that, because this city is a beautiful city.
Thank you.
So,
Thanks, yeah.
and the way it's going to be that way is we've got to
The
have people,
people,
that
yep.
care and love and work at it, just keep it that way. So,
I love to hear you speak. Thanks
Well,
for
thank
coming.
you very
I'm glad
much.
you're back.
yes, Lord
Okay,
bless you,
and-
Lord
yep.
bless you.
Of course, and Councilmember Marcin.
Georgetta, let me just say, I'm a fan. I've seen you come down and speak, and I just appreciate your energy. I have a
T-shirts.
Yeah, we do need
Georgetta-
T-shirts.
Georgetta
I have
t-shirts.
a comment and a question. First, I agree with you generally on the business philosophy. As a dad with young kids, I do think we have some local businesses in the community that are great. I want to shout out, it's not a local, but Get Air Trampoline Park is great for kids. The Winter Circle here in town is an arcade, and some activities maybe for older kids. There is a bar restaurant on the side, but there are some good things. I have a question for you, though. You open with restaurants. What is your favorite place to eat in the city of
The
Longmont?
in Longmont.
In Longmont.
In Longmont. I go to Kentucky Fried Chicken, but
Okay.
I had open heart surgery, so I can't be junking it that much. I really watch myself to
Thank you,
stay
Jessica.
healthy. I'm a miracle. I spent a month in Loveland Hospital, so anyway, still in my right mind. Don't dye my hair. The Lord is merciful, and the oldest of 10. So anyway, 11 great grandchildren and 5 grandchildren, and my husband passed 6 years ago. So anyway, Lord bless you. Thank you for
Yes,
listening, and I'll
of course.
pray for you. Keep doing a wonderful job. And I
Okay,
hope your
yeah,
ears
very
listening.
good. Councilmember Prieto.
Okay, thank you. So I was a little sad that I didn't see any youth in the crowd tonight, because it's so important for our youth to come and advocate for their needs, because they do have needs like many of us. And Georgetta, I thank you for coming on behalf of the youth tonight to advocate for more opportunity and activities in the city. And I just want you to know that it is within my heart, and I know the heart of our other council members, to provide more opportunity for our youth in the city. And we hope to do that, hopefully, through our term and the terms to come. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Chris.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Hi, my name is Chris Allred, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I've been a resident in Longmont for 10 years now, and I would like to echo the last speaker and compliment the city for all of your work to create opportunities for community building. I think that the ice rink at Roosevelt Park is one example of a great opportunity for people to get together and experience community and have a winter sport activity. And it's also a gathering place with all of the different holiday events and the cultural events and the parades and the art festival downtown. I think I just would like to commend the council for any role you've had in supporting these events, and please keep this going, because it is weaving together more community and culture in town. And I'd like to also highlight one institution in particular, Longmont Public Media, which has been a gathering place for artists and community members and cultural and education events. And it's right downtown. It's near the library. It's in the middle of many of these different festivals that occur. And I myself, as an artist, have participated there and in filmmaking, and I found it's really a gem. I don't think many other communities have such a valuable resource. It's a maker space where people can go and rent equipment and use computers and use studios, and it's so cool that the city has helped that organization to have this building that's so centrally located, and it has so many tools and resources. And so I just wanted to really speak as a voice in support tonight of Longmont Public Media, and to please do everything in your power to help preserve this organization and keep it as a place for cultural connections to be made and for artists to meet each other. I met an audio director there who's now working in LA. And I mean, it's just the people you meet there are really talented, friendly artists, and the staff. Everyone there has such a good heart. They're there to help people. They're there to make opportunities for the arts and teach about culture. And yeah, so want to really put in a good word for Longmont Public Media. And then with the remaining time too, I just want to also stand in solidarity with some of the other speakers, especially around the flock cameras. I was here the night that was a big issue. That's one of the biggest attendance of public comments I've seen here personally in person. And thank you to the council for voting to cancel that contract. I think that was really good to see the council hearing the community when everyone showed up that night. So just another vote of confidence. Thank you for listening, and please keep moving forward on the path to prevent surveillance infrastructure, to prevent AI infrastructure. I think these are very problematic and detrimental things for our society, and they are taking us down the wrong path. So let's set the right precedent in this town and help empower other communities to do the right thing too, and not be overwhelmed by this wave of influence and propaganda that's just spreading throughout the country with big data centers and surveillance. And so also with regard to ICE too, I think that's another really important topic that the first speaker mentioned a number of ideas for recourse or preventative measures that the city can take to make sure that ICE doesn't have a presence here and place vulnerable people at risk. So I really encourage the council to take measures in advance to prevent ICE from having an influence in this town. And thank you for your time. And if there are any questions or comments.
Yes, Councilmember Marcy.
Thank you, Mayor. Just very quickly, because a couple of speakers have mentioned it, I just want to make sure, for the public's clarity, the conversation around Flock, as the council member who made the motion that started that conversation, the ultimate action that council took was not to cancel the contract. That was not the action that was taken. We still have a contract with Flock. The action that was taken that staff has been working on was to pause expansion of any additional services, to stop external data sharing with other municipalities, and to come back to us with alternative options in March. That is the action that our public safety team and staff have been working on. So I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page and clear about that. And I know Mayor can speak to this as other members can too, just regarding our policies about ICE, not just locally, but also in state law, that local municipalities and jurisdictions do not, frankly, cooperate with that federal agency. But yeah.
We follow the state law in regard to that, and we also have a section on our website that talks about our procedure, and it goes into more detail, but it's very definitive as far as preserving and protecting people's civil rights. Okay. Did you want? Okay, so Mayor Pro Tem McCoy.
Chris, I want to thank you for coming down here and talking about Longmont Public Media. It is a real gem, and people just do not understand the vast amount of equipment that they can rent. And I think one of the things that is really going to help keep it going is people becoming members and being active members and paying for that yearly membership or that monthly membership, and helping them keep the high quality of equipment at Longmont Public Media, and it's dependent on artists like yourself to making that happen. And I want to thank you for doing that, because I really think that it is one of these unique situations. I mean, how cool is that to be in the old Carnegie Library and have all the facilities, from green screens to and even the training to become podcasters and things like that a lot of people just do not understand, and the complexity of it. And they do that sort of training there. They help people, and I think that's really a cool thing, and I thank you again.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keith.
Hi, name is Keith Hughes. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all tonight. I have a comment and a question about unleaded fuel at the Vance Brand Airport. The city has decided, because they offer MoGas, that they don't need to take advantage of the basically free money offered by the state of Colorado for unleaded fuel infrastructure and subsidizing use of unleaded gas and the cost of airplane certifications. National and state peer-reviewed publications have shown the danger of lead exposure from people living within a 2-mile radius of the airport's runways. Also, MoGas is not a great replacement for avgas, whereas the new aviation lead-free fuels are. Centennial has used the state funds and successfully made the transition to offering unleaded gas as part of their offerings. Why hasn't the city moved on this over the years that this program has been available and prioritized this transition? Thank you.
Great. Did you want to answer that? You are on the, yeah. So I know in the past we have directed staff to look into, and so I think, you know, looking at capacity level, filling out the grants, but and I will let Matthew Popkin go ahead. He is the liaison to the board, so has a little more insight as well. No, but the last time,
okay, I'm sorry.
when we were having these discussions. But yeah, no, I totally agree with you, and I do want to move forward on these grants.
Right.
And actually, I had a chance to look at the application myself. It's not that hard to fill out, so we'll be working on that.
Cool.
Go ahead,
I appreciate-
Councilmember Popkin.
Mayor, it's rare you want me to talk. Thank you for coming out. I think you won't find much pushback from here on wanting to pursue one, sustainable aviation in general. That can be unleaded aviation fuel from a fuel standpoint, as well as electrified aviation as we start to work towards that technology. I was down in Centennial Airport actually last July at an electric aviation demonstration event where they had amazing electric planes just taken off. I was standing next to one as it started its propellers with no ear protection or anything. It wasn't necessary. It's like a loud fan. So on the topic of unleaded aviation fuel, you're correct. There's a fair amount of state funding there. We were actually preparing to apply for that this past fall. From my understanding with staff, there was a misunderstanding of like what were the eligible costs and expenditures and what we needed at the moment. But that's high on our radar, no pun intended there. And genuinely from a health, safety, and overall sustainability standpoint, something we're actively pursuing. So just wanted to thank you for coming out and let you know that it's not falling off.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you.
Great, thank you. Mike. What's- That's what I meant.
Mike Schnatzmeyer, Honorable Mayor and council members, thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'd like to read a brief statement. Cities today are facing challenges that are no longer isolated, linear, or easily solved. Economic uncertainty, climate and flood risk, housing pressures, workforce transition, and persistent inequities, particularly affecting youth and our Hispanic community, are deeply interconnected. These are systemic problems and they require systemic responses. Every so often, a city encounters a moment of opportunity, a moment that allows us to weave together solutions in a way that is more holistic, more hopeful, and more uplifting than addressing each issue on its own. I'm here today to talk about the Sundance Film Festival, not simply as a cultural event, but as a catalyst for building social cohesion, strengthening economic opportunity, weaving together multiple constituencies in Longmont, and enhancing the city's visibility, identity, brand, and long-term prosperity. At its core, Sundance is grounded in values that resonate deeply with Longmont: social justice, equity, belonging, creativity, and environmental sustainability. This alignment matters to Longmont. Our thinking about Sundance should not be limited to a festival itself, but rather should focus on how the festival can help strengthen relationships between cultural organizations, youth, educators, small businesses, transit providers, nonprofits, and others. This leads to a deeper question. How can Longmont use the unique cultural moment of Sundance to strengthen our long-term brand, identity, and community coherence at little to minimal cost while achieving extraordinary local benefits? The key to unlocking and answering this question is that filmmaking is about far more than actors and celebrities. It relies on a vast ecosystem of behind-the-scenes goods and service providers, craft workers, technicians, fabricators, caterers, drivers, and small businesses. These are the people who actually make film possible and need visibility to thrive. And many of these people live here in Longmont. That is where Longmont can differentiate itself from Boulder venues, focusing on our hardworking residents and local businesses. In this regard, Longmont has a unique opportunity that Boulder can't offer: the Boulder County Fairgrounds. That is, at the largest, most flexible and most affordable large format event space in the entire county, the Fairgrounds positions Longmont to play a meaningful role at the festival by hosting a convention and events showcasing the smaller scale back-end filmmaking businesses and service providers that simply cannot afford Boulder venues. Envisioning the Fairgrounds as a local Sundance base camp opens the door. Beyond convening and events, it can serve as a place for music, on-site screenings, and more, where logistics, mobility, services, and people come together and then disperse outward into the city. The Fairgrounds' scale, affordability, parking, and flexibility make it suited to support vendor staging activities and local and regional connections. From a Fairgrounds base camp, visitors and residents alike can connect and shuttle to brew pubs, restaurants, film showings, cultural spaces, and venues throughout Longmont. This approach does not require major new spending, yet it has the potential to catalyze our community towards tens of millions of dollars in local economic impact, hundreds of millions over the decade ahead. It does not require competing with Boulder, but instead showcasing Longmont's own distinctive strengths: our mountain views, world-class fiber infrastructure, UN Making Cities Resilient designation, brew pub culture, agricultural roots, affordable space for new business development. Longmont already has many of these assets needed to succeed. The question before you is simple. Will Longmont choose to be reactive or proactive in creating something enduring, inclusive, and supporting of our long-term social, cultural prosperity?
Okay, great. Thank
All right.
you. Councilmember Christ.
Thank you, Mr. Schnatzmeyer, for talking on my favorite topic, which is how do we come together as a people? Yeah, that's very, very important. And I'm wondering, this year is our America 250 Colorado 150 anniversary. And I'm wondering, do you see any way that we can start that celebration and continue it into Sundance? It seems like it's a nice segue. Do you have any ideas?
I do have a number of ideas, probably too much to go into here, but I've seeded conversations with a lot of different people: entrepreneurial community, Longmont Public Media, people with the Boulder County Film Commission. There's residents with a Tinkermill Makerspace, which is right next door. There's residents with the airport, people that do fly into Longmont, only having a mile to go to the Boulder County Fairgrounds and connect shuttles. Rather than get a car, they can get a shuttle, or they can visit Longmont while they're in town. If there's a base camp in town where people coming to town, particularly in the southwest corner of Longmont, can aggregate and begin to connect and weave together community and narratives. This is a way for us to really create an inroad into Sundance, and the economic opportunity is huge, but we need to get ahead of it.
I agree with you. Thank you for sharing your ideas.
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Marcin.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be quick. And just for the public, Mike, I appreciate when you come down and talk. 15 years ago now, you stopped me in the pump house or something like that and said, hey, I've got all these maps of the floodplain in Longmont. If we get a bad weather event, there's going to be a really bad flood. And that was 2 years before the flood of 2013. So when you talk, I tend to listen. When you think about this vision that you're kind of outlining, it seems like you've got an idea in mind. And I think we as a council, and when we think about economic development opportunities, we're always interested and curious. So if in 30 seconds or so, if you could map out a little bit more of what you're saying and kind of, you're kind of describing generally southwest of town and those sorts of things. I don't think that's an area we talk about a lot, but there's a lot of transit down there and a lot of opportunities. So I'm just curious if you can speak a little bit more specifically about the vision that you've got in your head.
Well, thank you for mentioning the flood mitigation effort, and thanks to the city for doing a great job on that. We're approaching exceeding $100 million investment in the Resilient St. Vrain project. Let's get across the finish line. We're so close. We issued a bond for Reach 3 under Hoover Underpass 4 years ago now for $20 million and still haven't quite gotten there yet. So let's get across the finish line. Boulder County Fairgrounds right next to that. That's another opportunity that resonates with Sundance and the Boulder County Fairgrounds. We can showcase that incredible work that is the core for the city of Longmont being designated the United Nations Making Cities Resilient Framework. People at the fairgrounds can say, oh, you're the only city in the country that has a designation, and the core of that effort is 200 feet away. Let's go visit it. Let's go visit Golden Ponds. So the answer, try to summarize, we need to build upon our steering committee that I believe the council has already gotten started, and just have outreach. I'd be glad to participate in that if I was invited to, and just build those and I've got actually about 100 pages written up on this idea, so I can't share it all here, but I'd be happy to share those ideas.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Kalkofer.
Mike, thank you so much for coming out, and thanks for everybody for coming out. I know how intimidating it is to be on that other side of the microphone. Sundance is something that is near and dear to my heart. I majored in communication studies, so film was my passion, and I decided to go into supply chain instead. With everything that we have, all of the makers that we have, all of the artists that we have, Sundance is our opportunity. And there's a lot of organizations that are starting to participate in planning Visit Longmont. One of the boards that I'm representing is also talking about it. So I'd like to make sure that we're bringing all these ideas into one central location. I'd love to chat with you about some of your ideas offline.
Thank you. I'll reach out on that.
Councilmember Popkin.
Mike, you didn't approach me in the pump house 15 years ago, but we've certainly had a fair share of conversations. Appreciate your thoughtfulness here, your systems thinking, and kind of thinking ahead, and recognizing kind of the resources we have, both natural and physical amenities. I'm curious, as I think you're well aware, the Boulder County Fairgrounds is not the city of Longmont's property, and so I would be curious, have you engaged with our county commissioners at all on this?
Haven't done that yet. What I've tried to do is approach it from a grassroots level. Attended an event at the Boulder County Film Commission at the Dickens Opera House that really expresses the need. There were probably close to 200 people on the second floor Boulder County Film Commission to talk about Sundance. Great speakers, but 4 out of 5 people that I talked to there, and I probably talked to 20, were small local businesses, voiceover people, drone, this gets into the St. Vrain Valley School District, drone operators, whatever, there to promote their small local business to the film industry. And they had to literally yell across the cacophony of hundreds of people to someone 2 feet away, and there was no way to connect and showcase who they were in such a venue that you could have at a convention facility at the Boulder County Fairgrounds. That really is the core of it, is to build our local entrepreneurial businesses to be able to showcase their wares to a global or international audience, and bring that audience to Longmont, and give them a good excuse for those people to come here and party and listen to music and meet and aggregate and see what's going on. So
yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, thanks. The one before I was on city council, before I was on the planning commission, one of the very first community engagement meetings that I actually went to was hosted by the county at the fairgrounds about the fairgrounds master plan and the future vision. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you search Boulder County Fairgrounds Master Plan, you can find some renderings of what they've been working for. There's a little banner at the top that says the Fairgrounds Master Plan is temporarily on a hold while funding options are reviewed. If you are feeling like an engaged citizen, which I think everyone in this room is tonight, and what Mike is describing and kind of as a vision there for the master plan and the fairgrounds resonates with you, feel free to reach out to your county commissioners and just kind of make a plug and say, hey, you know what, this would be really important for our community resilience, environmentally, socially, economically, and hopefully we can get things moving there. Appreciate it.
Just quickly, I'll just throw a quick plug. I'm also having conversations around an idea called the Golden Triangle. So the Golden Triangle in concept is a placemaking opportunity with the Boulder County Fairgrounds at the heart of it. So roughly our future transit station can feed the Boulder County Fairgrounds to Golden Pond, future transit station on Main and 3rd out to Golden Pond, south to Oscar Blues in that area. There's a 3 square mile area that it's the most underutilized economic opportunity in the city of Longmont. If we can activate that area, both at Boulder County Fairgrounds, Sundance Film Festival, there are hundreds of thousands of square foot of empty commercial industrial space. These people visiting Sundance can say, oh, I can set up my film-based business right here, and we can market those opportunities to people visiting town for Sundance. So I'll end it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Paul.
Paul Beard. I've lived now in Longmont for about 5 years, and people have been mentioning the wonderful quality of life resources that are here at Tinker Mill Media Center, Longmont Museum, Nextlight, wonderful things. But I think there's one gaping hole in resources here, and that is there's no direct public transportation to the airport, to DIA. So I've shared that with a lot of people, and they say, well, it's just the way it is. We've got RTD, and they don't seem to really be very responsive or have very much respect for Longmont. And of course, there's all the history, which I've heard about but won't go into. But it occurs to me that that may be changing now, because Longmont is about to become very relevant to RTD. And they have a great big multi-million, actually billion-dollar proposal that they're going to be putting before the voters. And so what I was thinking was that what you might be able to do right now is to build the dinghy instead of the yacht, which is to say, put before them the proposal to do direct transportation to the airport from Longmont and make it a gesture of goodwill. Make it something that they can do, that they can deliver to Longmont, since they've basically delivered nothing and broken all their promises. And it's a way that they can set themselves up politically to do the campaign that inevitably that will follow, and it may get us our direct transportation to the airport as a byproduct. I think there are some really strong arguments that you could make, put in a motion. Perhaps the motion or the resolution that you could put before them was, as a prerequisite to considering endorsing or supporting your rail service to Fort Collins and all points south, we will require you, or strongly encourage you, whatever gets the job done, to deliver this direct transportation, this bus service. The bus service, by the way, has a precedent. Boulder's got it. Westminster's got it. I mean, it's hard to say why we're being neglected that way. It doesn't require any infrastructure. It's just buses. We don't need rails or any of this hugely expensive infrastructure that's going with their major project. But this would be so useful to have. To a large extent, it's inexpensive because the ridership pays, for the service. But I think the most crucial thing is this is your moment when they need you, and this would be the time to make the proposal. And I think all the citizens of Longmont would be hugely grateful if you pulled it off. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kalkoffer.
Paul, thank you so much. Almost all of us came from an election where we were talking to a lot of residents. And for me, one of the biggest things is the ride to the airport. I definitely want to hold RTD accountable. Everybody that I've spoken to says, yes, I will take it, and yes, I will take it frequently, and yes, I'm willing to spend X amount of dollars. So it's something that I know there's a bunch of us on here that are passionate about that, and we're going to continue to push RTD. One of the things that I've been asking the residents to do is demand RTD provide some data. They do not want to provide us the data because as soon as they see the data, then they will have to act on the data. So if we can have everybody beating to the same drum, that we are going to hold RTD accountable, ask them for data for the ridership from Boulder to DIA, because they say that there's not enough demand for Longmont, which I believe is false.
I believe it's false.
Need to beat to the same drum, which I think we are. So thank you for coming and speaking on that tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, of course. And you know, because I've been in conversations around looking at the financing mechanism, and I don't know if the fees itself would pay. Are you okay? Oh, I'm seeing a nod back there. I don't know if it would totally cover itself, so there would have to be other mechanisms or other financial components in place. But I totally agree with you. And that, you know, that was one of, like, I think of all of us, our commitment is that we, especially since Black 8 closed down, that we need that something. You know, it could be a negotiating tool. It could be, there's a lot of ways that we could make that happen, but it is a priority. And talk to your RTD representatives, everybody. You know, if we start flooding their boxes and saying this is, you know, I often hear, well, the ridership isn't there, but you know, it's not feasible for people who don't have vehicles and are depending on the bus where the routes are infrequent, they're further from where people live. So we need just more stops and more, you know, just more throughout the day, more rides throughout the day that would help increase ridership if it's more convenient to use. I'm going to pop it on over to Councilmember Popkin.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Paul. Well said. I appreciate you being a gentle bad cop here in this room and helping think about how to approach this and leverage this. You know, I too came from a campaign situation, and one of the things I used, you know, when I was going door to door, I was actually surveying people of how frequently they would use this. And so, RTD, I know you're paying attention to our open forums. In case you were curious about the data, it was about 70% of people that I surveyed would use the bus to the airport at least 6 times a year.
Yes.
Or if many much more than that. And so, you know, it's not just a question of would you use it, but it's also a question of how frequently in terms of the ridership. You know, the other thing that I would encourage people here, to the extent that you have conversations and friends and neighbors or contacts with people in other parts of the greater RTD area, you know, a lot of people don't always appreciate how sizable Longmont actually is now. You know, we are, depending on the day, the largest city by population of Boulder County, and people don't appreciate that. We're over 100,000 people, sometimes, you know, probably pushing 105,000 soon. And, you know, when I asked I won't name the name here, but when I asked someone on the RTD board how many people they thought lived, what the population of Longmont was, they said, oh, probably about 80,000. You're off by a factor of 20 grand. So, you know, make sure people understand that, you know, we are, you know, a desirable place. We're in a relatively affordable place for the region. And also, like, we deserve to be connected into this. So thank you for coming. Thank you for speaking up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Councilmember Christ.
I just want to add for the record that we did have a ride to the DIA. It was called Sky Ride, and it was full consistently. So, yes, I'm with you 100%. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, thank you. Okay, the next group, Ed Ruskus, Kristen Bowles, Betty Tobias, Meg Thornberry, and Sandra Locke.
I was falling asleep. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah, wake up.
I was. You caught me off guard. I was
Oh.
keeping track, and I was off by 10.
Oh.
Okay. Thanks for letting me talk tonight, Mayor, and all you guys. I appreciate you running and filling the chairs instead of being home drinking beer or playing with your dogs. I appreciate it. So this comes from love, but it's just my history of this space. So, are you all? It's about the airport, of course. Are you all aware of the appellate legal brief from the Superior Boulder County suit against Jeffco? It talks about the authority that cities like Longmont have and the responsibility they have to abate noise at their airport. I know this reply brief was emailed to you on all council at least once. Let me read a couple of portions of it, please. It states that Jeffco admits that they have the authority to abate the nuisance identified by the appellants. Indeed, in light of myriad federal statutes, U.S. Supreme Court cases, and Federal Aviation Administration's guidance, making clear that the airport proprietors, like Jeffco, have the power to deny the use of their airports to aircraft on the basis of noise considerations, so long as such exclusions is non-discriminatory. Jeffco's lawyers in this case are the same lawyers that Longmont has for outside counsel on aviation issues. So we know that your lawyers also know it's Longmont's responsibility and authority to abate the nuisance, noise, and repetitive traffic at the city-owned airport. The brief also states Congress has consciously delegated to state and municipal proprietors of the authority to adopt rational regulations with respect to the permissible level of noise created by aircraft using their airports in order to protect the local population. So why is it that our council acts as victims to the FAA and settles for unwanted air traffic and the effects on that community? I've been here a long time, so give me the space here. The community has been speaking to council since at least November 24 about the negative impacts of the airport in the last 2 years, which no resident could have possibly anticipated. I've been coming here for 20 at least. Also, the city's own legal counsel has asserted that airport proprietors have legal authority to do something about all of the planes that harass our town. Why is Longmont still sitting on its hands and kicking the can down the road? The city clearly has the power to regulate nuisances. Why can't the city council not assert its power to regulate these issues? I have something else written down here. So just a question. How about the Kaplan Kirch attorneys' potential conflict of interest because they represent Jeffco Airport against the Boulder County and Superior, and they also represent Longmont. They advise Longmont at that sometime. And I'm just asking. If you have any questions, please reply to the brief. It's in your inbox from Allison Schultz a couple of times. And this is my own personal notes on all of this. Look, I'm tired. I'm 69 years old. I'm living here since 1979. I'm living at 92 at my current address, which is just outside the city limits, down 95th Street. I'm weary. I'm weary of the city council stringing the citizens along. You guys come and you do your time, you do your 2 years, and then we get really close on something, and then it doesn't happen. And the city council strings us along who represent not just the pilots to get us close to a solution and just drag and delay until the next election comes along. So we are in a new phase here. Everybody, not all of you, but some of you new. You have new blood, you have new relationships to build. I'm hoping that we could finally do something about it. I mean, I don't have many, what do I have, 10 or 15 years left? I've been coming here for 30. Mostly I'm sick of the frickin' noise from this facility that Longmont really doesn't need. I mean, we have it now. There's been some ideas of why we use it, but I only see it from recreational planes that don't have any baffles in their exhaust pipes. It's about the sanctity of our homes and the space above. My own personal thing, a beautiful park would be better use of the land. That's all I got. Thank you for listening to me. I appreciate it. Appreciated all the speakers today. They were really great. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
See you.
Kristen? Or Kirsten, right?
Kirsten. Hi.
Kirsten.
Thank you.
I
Thank you, Council. Kirsten Bass, Longmont resident for nearly 20 years. And I'm here tonight seeking information. I think Councilperson Popkin, as the City Council liaison to the airport board, can you please tell me what conversations have been had to address how the increased volume of flights at the airport is affecting the schools and children in the flight paths? First, relating to the safety risk associated with the use of leaded fuel. And I heard Council's answer to what we're doing about leaded fuel here, but I also want to know what we're doing about planes coming from other airports that use leaded fuel.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Kirsten. I'll do my best on this. To your second question, that's a little bit trickier in terms of working on planes that come here because, frankly, any plane can fly in here and land here, and we can't control their point of origin, nor the type of plane that they inherently have. When I think about building on the sustainable aviation response that I provided previously today to a few other folks, we're thinking about transitioning away from lead in terms of a health standpoint, sustainability standpoint, both in terms of what we sell here, which is what we can control, and then kind of what we try to attract here if we're thinking down the road in terms of electric aviation. There's only so many planes that can handle airspace safely at any time, and so the more that you can attract planes that are flying in to charge up with electricity rather than fuel up, and I know we're years away from that, but I'm just saying there's long planning and there's short term, which we're working on in terms of unleaded transition. To the first part of your question, or the first question you had, I don't know the exact time status of our engagement with the FAA on the saturated pattern policy that the previous council did pass in, when was that, October? I think it was October or September. And that would be designed to limit touch and go operations when there are 3 or more planes in the pattern. That is something that other airports have done. It's a fairly novel strategy relative to kind of the mass there. And it gives us something to literally put us on the map policy-wise that we can go around to other airports and say, hey, this is what we're looking out for. This is how we're approaching this. And from a safety standpoint, please respect this pattern policy that we have when there's a saturation. And so that reflects the number of planes that are in that pattern that can enter and exit that pattern safely and what we're regulating there. So I believe that's in conversation with the FAA right now. We've passed the policy. I'm seeing our city manager nod in the back that we're in conversation there on implementation on that. That does not require us completing a rates and charges study first. That does not require us figuring out kind of a fee structure or new staffing. That's just confirming kind of how we're going to implement that policy and then getting that on the books. And then the important piece is not just getting it on the books, but communicating that to other airports, making sure that they understand that, because that's how we start to address kind of the neighbor to neighbor from an airport standpoint relationships there.
Okay, 2 things. One, if we can't control the planes coming in using leaded fuel, then we're not protecting our population. We're not protecting our children. So perhaps the rates and studies could have some sort of, you have to pay us an additional $7,000 if you're going to poison our children and you're using leaded fuel. Second, if we're limiting the number of planes in the cycle, we also need to be aware of where are they going to go while they wait to get into the cycle. We can't just have them over the neighborhoods, also emitting leaded fuel there.
Yeah.
And so then my final question will be, have there been any conversations related to any updates to the noise abatement policy to include the students' learning and after-school activities hours?
Can you repeat that question?
I am curious if there's been any conversations regarding updates to the noise abatement policy to take into consideration the students' learning and after-school activities hours. Because there are a number of schools directly under the flight path now.
Yeah, I'll let Councilmember McCoy jump in a moment on that. In terms of, why don't you jump in first while I remember what I was going to say there. Thank you, Kirsten.
And I don't think that there's been a discussion as far as on the airport advisory board when you've been, so this past year when you served on there on this particular topic. Correct. And I haven't heard that. I know I work at a school that is is close to the airport.
Yeah.
And so we do hear it. So that has been, concerns that have been thrown out there. But as far as receiving something formally, receiving something formally on a study or the number of planes. We have yet to receive something to that degree. But I'm going to hand it over to Mayor Pro Tem McCoy.
So, Kristen, thank you for coming down here tonight. Many of these questions have not been asked, but I'm going to ask staff to make sure that they put them on the list for that rate study, because I think it is something that we do need to discuss. I think that we have planes that if this was your commuter car, it'd be an antique. And it's ridiculous to think that anybody would be flying something like that. And I think that some of our discussion will hopefully entail, when we do get to this rate and study, that we look at how long we do our leases and tie downs based on what somebody is flying and using and hangering, for lack of a better word, in these hangars. So if that's something that it doesn't solve the problem, but it does get the discussion going, and it does also have us look about how we would look at leasing terms, how long they would be, because if you're not going to make these changes, then you're going to get a shorter lease, and it's going to be then you're going to have some issues around the cost of living and all the other stuff that goes up, and so will the price of a lease for a shorter period of time, is what I envision. And I think that's a good start, and it's a conversation. But I'd like staff, if they are taking notes, that if they could maybe add some of these things into that, and maybe it's a broader discussion. But some of these things that you brought up, there's not the data there. And, maybe it's a conversation that we have to have more universally from maybe a Colorado Municipal League sort of point of view, where other communities that have airports need to say, hey, this is not how it's going to, we can continue. It's not sustainable dumping leaded fuels over our children's heads. So,
Or allowing so many inexperienced pilots in such close proximity to each other over our schools.
Right.
We're just asking for trouble, and I don't want to have to pull my kid out of school.
Yes, I get that.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilmember Popkin?
Yeah, Kirsten, you can stay seated, or you can go back to your seat. I was just going to add a couple more things. The first thing on the voluntary noise abatement program, we've actually been collecting quite a bit of resident feedback and other practices from other airports over the last few months. And looking in the back again to see, I think we're in conversation with the FAA about updating our full VNAP program to, again, be not only, to put it simply, better than what it currently is, but also more effectively communicated and more clearly communicating, so that you can pull up, the Boulder Airport, for instance, has a map that you can pull up and see noise-sensitive areas like that. Very easy to read. You're not reading a 15-page PDF, right? And so really thinking about those strategies that just signal it. I can't tell you the number of conversations I've had with pilots. They're like, we're not trying to, we know the route to fly that doesn't annoy people. And it's the ones that are based here and largely come in and out of our airport that understand that. It's the ones that are just popping in for the day, or just don't kind of spend a ton of time here, that don't know that as clearly. So the more clearly we can make sure that is communicated, the more it addresses some of these issues. The last thing I'll just say on the saturated pattern policy, I've had conversations with pilots and other airport managers. My understanding of how their operations would be, if there's a region that is more heavily concentrated of active flights, they're not circling like a kind of major international airport would see, in terms of runway saturation there. They're going elsewhere. They're going to go and fly and do their training flight elsewhere, not within a mile of the pattern. They're going to a completely different area from 99% of the conversations I've had in terms of just kind of what they look for in day-to-day business. So just wanted to add that clarity there. Okay. Thank you again for coming by. Thanks for the emails that you continue to send.
Councilmember Christ, and then we're going to take a break, because we've been going since 5:30.
I'll try to be brief. So, Councilmember Popkin mentioned that we had gone to see a electric airplane. He and I went together down to Centennial Airport. And I think one of the things that needs to be mentioned is about the electric motors are very viable. They're here, they work. Airplane frames can be retrofitted, so it's the cost of a new motor, not the cost of a whole new plane. And one of the things the city of Longmont has going for it is we own our electric company. So putting in the infrastructure there will be very useful. And one of the applications I think is very in the forefront is as a commuter plane. So it may be that electric planes are what goes back and forth. So I know, let's just keep pushing for progress, okay? And thank you for your comments today.
Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break, and then we'll continue on. We've been going for a while. your seats. We're going to continue on. Okay. The next name on the list is Betty Tobias. Can we have folks take their seats before we get started? And then the next few people on the list, so I have Meg Thornberry, apologies, Sandra Locke, Allie Schultz, E.K. Grief, if I got it right, Grief? Close enough? I'm sorry, correct me, yeah, when you get up here. So if you can make your way down so we can continue. And you may begin, yes.
Good evening. My name is Betty Tobias, and I live in unincorporated Longmont. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me to speak this evening. I'm probably going to reiterate a few things that people have already mentioned about the airport, but from a little bit different point of view. There has been a noticeable uptick, as everybody knows, in airplane noise starting around last year in our neighborhood, presumably due to more flight school traffic in the Longmont area. Planes are continually circling, installing overhead, and this is not over the airport, this is in unincorporated Longmont. And this has created frustration in our once much quieter neighborhood, as well as concern about the presence of lead from airplane fuel. When I asked our airport manager what could be done, I was told this was a federal issue and to contact the FAA regarding specific airplanes. I now believe this issue can be handled at the local level, and I just wanted to thank you all for bringing up these issues, the electric planes and unleaded fuel. It sounds like you're really on top of it, so I'm actually quite surprised and really happy about that. I was going to talk about the Jeffco lawsuit, but somebody already mentioned that. So I just wanted to say that it's not just happening around the airport, but there are flight school planes circling in other neighborhoods, and so it is an issue for unincorporated Longmont as well. We've lived here for 13 years, and we sit outside with headphones now on our heads, and pretty frustrated about the issue. So I just want to say how excited I am that you all are on top of this, and I believe that our airport manager and city council hopefully can manage this issue so that our community can once again enjoy the quiet and beauty of our Colorado skies in the greater Longmont area. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Meg.
Hello, I'm Meg Thornberry. I live in Ward 2. And I know that most of the ranked choice people have left, but I just wanted to give them a shout out and thank you for continuing to support ranked choice voting, since I think that would have been, next time hopefully there's someone like me who can run with ranked choice voting. So I appreciate your support for pushing our ranked choice voting to get on the ballot. So thank you so much for all of that. While I'm thinking about it, we were talking about things to do to Longmont, and I know you love the Sugar Mill, Matthew. What if we turned it into a concert venue? What if we brought that here? Okay, just putting that one out there. Now, back to the serious things at hand. I am incredibly concerned about the state of everything in this country right now, and specifically about what cities can do to push back in situations where there are ICE raids happening. I'm just curious about what is in this city's scope of control, and then offering what we as citizens can do to help non-citizens alike. So one of the quickest things that I just want to also do that we're trying to get going, if you remember at the beginning of COVID, we did a little howl that we would do at like 7 or 8 p.m. and everybody would come out and bang on pots and pans and go for it. So we want to bring the howl back just to remind us that we are all together, that we are all Longmonters, that we're all here. So real quick, if you'll be brave with me, can we all howl? Okay. Oh! Beautiful. Thank you. So every night, 8 p.m., that's what we're going to be doing. Please throw your front door open and howl with me. So thank you. So besides that, what else are we doing to prepare? I want to make sure that we are addressing surveillance technologies. I was here to also talk about Flock, and I'm still concerned about not just Flock, but sort of any similar technologies to make sure that we are being as ethical as possible, as responsible as possible with data. And importantly, I would love to see a tech board that is formed with some of our experts who are, in this
this room and ready to help with cybersecurity questions or whatever to review new stuff as it's coming in. So I just want to encourage the city to make sure that we are doing everything that we can to use surveillance technology responsibly, and that all of those decisions need to be taken very, very seriously. Because I am worried that this data is going to be used against many of us, myself included, and that we are very close to having a lot of our data that can be used against us actively by when ICE, scans your face. Just so many things that are coming up. So just sort of wondering what the city is able to do and then what help you need from us as well so that we can have the sort of organized response that we've seen in Minneapolis.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to answer some of those and then I'll pass it on. So on the website, we do have, it's under immigration policies, and so we do follow, and there's a long list of public safety role, public contracting, public benefits and community services that extend, beyond the scope of ICE, but looking at how we support community. I have a mom, my mom passed in 1990, but she was never a citizen. So I think about, what would happen in the States if, God forbid she was alive today. Mm-hmm. So no, that is something very real. And I have family that live at the Zuni Indian Reservation. Indigenous folks are being picked up by ICE. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we are seeing in our community, and City Council and staff have worked closely on this with public safety, is ensuring that people's civil rights are honored. We are not cooperating with ICE. Now, in the event of a criminal investigation where FBI or other Homeland Security or other agencies as well come in and say, we need to get this individual for rape, for human trafficking is a big one because that does cross borders.
Sure.
So those particular pieces where we do have that authority and capacity and control within our boundaries. I do sit on the council, the Racial Equity and Leadership Council, as well as on the Hispanic Caucus for the National League of Cities, or HELO is what it's called. And we talk about this. We do meet monthly at this point in the game and looking at how communities are responding. One of the things that we have seen, communities that are connected with counties. So I do meet regularly with our mayors in Boulder County, as well as other city council members in area municipalities. So we do have just like a common language, common response, because the more, if each community is doing something different, it creates more chaos and confusion and fear and very reactionary response. So looking at this from a proactive lens. There are some things that are being tried in court. If municipalities can say you can't wear masks, we have control of what happens within our city buildings. Within our schools. City doesn't, but the school district does. And there is a whole plan as far as how we respond. And I know that firsthand because as a teacher in the district, so how we respond when ICE does come to the doors. So there are systems in place. I think, this came up at our coffee with council. Councilmember Prieto and I were there. So these questions did come up. And, outside of what the city is, you've heard of Colorado Rapid Response. So following that, they have, back in the day, early on, several years before I even thought about running for council, I was a person who went out. I was a confirmer. Mm-hmm. So we would go out and we were well trained. We did not escalate. We did not engage, but just really pulling out what the facts are. Mm-hmm. And so those, I think, from my experience, that's been a very reliable source.
Sure.
But not get caught up on all the social media stuff, because there are things that are going out there that just aren't true, or are exaggerated. So I think, not getting hyped up with that, let's remain calm, because at the end of the day, we really want to not put people in danger that we're trying to protect. And so I think, how we're going about is very, not necessarily, I don't want to say discreet, but more just calm. Strategic. Just calm, strategic, professional, and you know, we want our residents to contact police in the event of domestic violence or if they're witnessing a crime. So we have to have those open communications, and we can't have people just living in fear and continuing, you know, hiding, but also experiencing domestic violence, drug, human trafficking, and these aren't being reported. So I think from a public safety point of view, it is really important that we are connected with all residents. So I think that was, I feel like there was something else, but I'm going to defer. I'm going to pass it on to Mayor Pro Tem McCoy.
Hi, Meg. Just so that you follow along there, if people go to the home, City of Longmont home, and then go to public information, and then go to immigration policies, there is a resolution there. There's also all the policies in English and all the policies in Spanish. So I think it's important that people read over that of when we will share and when we won't share, and also to make sure that people can get to that and figure out where to go, because it's home, public information, immigration policies.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Popkin.
Thank you. I'll respond to a couple of the other topics that you mentioned here. First, one of the the conversations that I think didn't get started yet fully, but emerged a little bit between the lines in the discussion on surveillance technology and Flock was kind of how the city handles data governance. And I think that's something that cities across the world are going to be struggling with to figure out over the rest of eternity. And so I think, we're hopefully well positioned, looking at you, Valerie, a little bit here, since we run our own internet, to also be thinking with Nextlight, to be thinking about what role can we have here? How can we leverage that in-house a little bit to be a little bit ahead of the curve there, or hopefully a lot ahead of the curve? I think we're still in the early stages of that. I know we have a staff member looking at you, Becky, in the back there, attending the Bloomberg Sustainable and Innovative Cities Summits that are happening. So we're learning from cities, not just in this country, but around the world, as well as they're handling technology and data. So, I think we're priming ourselves to handle this well. There's never a perfect time to address this, and I think figuring out the exact right balance of technology is always going to be a conversation. It's never going to be exactly resolved. So I appreciate the comments there, Meg, and I appreciate kind of the staff that we have that are trying to be on the leading edge of figuring out kind of how we as a city, a small to medium-sized city, can actually kind of navigate this thoughtfully, strategically, and ethically. On the sugar mill, can't go into detail because it's an executive session before, but on the public agenda that we had, we did just come from an executive session discussing sugar mill. All I will say now is that if or when something does get built there, I will gladly offer on the record to be the opening act for any kind of entertainment venue that we create there. And if you don't know what I do professionally, it's juggling. No, I'm just kidding. So, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, let's see. Next on our list, I have Sandra.
Sandra Locke. And thank you, Mayor and Council, for letting me speak. So this is about the airport. What residents are seeking, managed nuisance and, thank you. Managed nuisance and pollution coming from the airport. It's not a violation of much legally, it turns out. The city has not only the capacity, the capability, but the responsibility to act on this matter. The relief we seek does not violate ANCSA, which is the Airport Noise and Capacity Act. And it is reasonable, non-arbitrary, and non-discriminatory. Indeed, the public nuisance at issue, piston engine aircraft performing touch-and-go operations at the airport, is precisely the type of activity for which Longmont can promulgate reasonable, non-arbitrary, and non-discriminatory regulations in order to establish acceptable noise levels for the airport and its immediate environs. All this, again, was noted in the Boulder County Superior versus Jeffco appellate reply brief, which you all have in your inbox. For the added note of ANSA only applies to staged aircraft, none of which are relevant to Longmont. The FAA considers piston engine aircraft non-stage, which means the aircraft are expressly not subject to ANSA 49 USC Section 475224A, stating that ANSA applies only to Stage 2 and Stage 3 aircraft. Moreover, in ANSA, Congress presented only noise or access restrictions impacting Stage 2 and Stage 3 aircraft. Congress consciously chose not to preempt similar restrictions on non-stage aircrafts. So what is the next stage for council and the city manager in regards to this issue? Thank you.
So, Allie Schultz.
My name is Allie Schultz. I've been in your inboxes a lot. I hope you read them because it takes a lot of time to organize and get it out. There's a few topics that I just want to cover in the 5 minutes tonight. And again, I want to thank you all for having an open forum. It's nice for those of us in the county who don't always get to talk at city council meetings and who are directly impacted by the airport. I have planes flying over my house all day long on good and bad days, which was not the case 2 years ago. So one note I want to make is that there is no pilot shortage. That is one myth that if you're hearing it, you need to ask questions of the person who's telling you that. If you go back to the October AAB meeting from 2025, around minute 25, Adrian Nye, the former president of the Colorado Pilots Association, stated that there is no airline pilot shortage. It was, in fact, a marketing ploy to fill flight schools. Thank you. The Airline Pilots Association also says there isn't a pilot shortage, and Reddit threads, which include plenty of pilots looking for jobs, also indicates that there's no pilot shortage. So that's thing one. My next kind of thing that I would love for you all to maybe take up with staff is that the airport monitoring systems data, which is the system that I believe Levi has or the airport director has to track all kinds of data at the airport, it should be public information. It should be posted on the website so that we can all see it and it's transparent. In many ways, like, taxpayers have paid for it, so it could be public. The third issue that I want to kind of have you all maybe put a pin in for future discussion is there appears to be a bit of a lack of enforcement of the airport's rules and regulations, as well as the airport's minimum standards. I'm happy to email both documents to you all if you'd like. But my question is, who does that duty fall to? And why aren't they really taking a lot of that seriously? It would be great if we could at least get the airport up to baseline by enforcing the existing rules and regulations and minimum standards. The fourth little item is, I know electric aviation is so exciting. It's 40 years out. So that's really not going to solve our immediate problems here. It's also going to be tricky. I mean, think about how electric cars, we don't have full electric fleets, you know, currently. The sky is going to be the same way. We're running into the same issue with unleaded fuel. It's not going to be unleaded overnight for every airplane in the sky. It's a long game. And the fifth item that I would really like to put a pin in or have you all dig into is around the rates and charges study and regarding the vendors or the consultants that were reached out to regarding completing that study. At least two of the three folks that were contacted, one was the former airport director at our MMA, who worked at least on the same piece of property that our airport director was currently or was working with back then as a flight instructor. And another one was the former interim airport director at Boulder BDU. So there's a few conflict of interest potentials there. The airport director, former airport director at our MMA was also just had an attitude toward the community that really wasn't too palatable. And considering what Longmont is facing with regards to community complaints about the airport, it doesn't really seem like a good fit. So those are my 5 points that I hope y'all dig into a little bit.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for that. EK? And can you please pronounce your last name for me?
Greif.
Greif, okay.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I have a question for all of you guys. What does a good quality of life mean to you? Is a good quality of life to be woken up every morning at sunrise by flight school planes, sometimes as early as 5:30 in the morning, every day? Is it a good quality of life to you to go to sleep with flight school planes flying over your head when you're trying to go to sleep? Is it a good quality of life to have a family outing anywhere within a 3-mile radius of the airport and be assaulted by flight school planes and you can't even have a conversation? The flight schools have absolutely no respect for the Longmont community. None. I don't see anywhere in the Longmont mission statement that states Longmont wants to become the official flight training center of the Front Range. Our MMA is listed as the most dangerous airport in the country, in the United States, RMMA. So what do they do to make it less dangerous? They send all their traffic to Longmont to make us less safe. We don't have an airport issue in Longmont. We have a flight school issue. It's not the local pilots that are a problem here. It's the flight schools. The flight schools, they come here, they disrupt us, they pollute us, and they make us less safe. They don't stop here. They don't buy fuel here. They don't spend a penny here. Yet they are destroying our quality of life here. They don't live here. We do. Yet they decide when we get up in the morning. They decide when we can go to sleep at night. They make life pretty miserable for a lot of people in Longmont. It's insane behavior that we're allowing this. We've had zero support from airport management. Zero. We have all heard from many local pilots that the airport is a dump, a real mess. That's local pilots talking, not me. What are they doing out there? They're obviously not helping us. They're not helping the community. They're not even helping the local pilots. Longmont deserves better. We have to stop throwing up our hands and saying there's nothing we can do. It's an FAA issue. We have to find a way to fix this. I hear from a lot of city council members that their inbox is full of airport complaints. It's almost the #1 complaint you guys get. As a community, we need some common sense solutions. It's as easy as that, to make Longmont the place it deserves to be. Let's stand up to the FAA and do what's right for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't go anywhere.
Oh, okay. Mayor Pro Tem McCoy.
EK, thank you for coming down, and I really do appreciate this. I talked to a student of mine that was learning to become a pilot, and she said that she was coming out of Rocky Mountain Airport, and she said she didn't want to do her touch and goes at that airport because it was so scary with the jets taking off all the time that she came to the Longmont Airport. So that's reinforcing what you're saying here. And I do appreciate you coming down and talking because, you know, I think we've got some, you know, misconceptions and misunderstandings in some aspects of what we do have control over. So again, thank you for coming down.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, oh, Councilmember Marcy.
Very quick. Thanks, EK. 2 quick questions. How long have you lived out in that neck of the woods?
10 years.
10 years. How long have you had concerns about the airport?
2 years.
Okay, thank you.
First 8 years was absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
They have wrecked it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, oh, okay. So we have 12 more residents as well, so.
Hey, you wanted me to speak earlier. I just want to Ally and to EK and a few other people who have spoken that we're obviously not responding to every single person in each moment, but as like a little batch response here, I just want to acknowledge, like, when we're referring to the unleaded fuel transition and the electric aviation transition, you know, the key word there is transition. It's going to take time. We're aware of that. I'm not, at least I'll speak for myself here and saying, like, I know it's not a panacea, and that's not the only, those are not the only courses of action we're looking at. And we have other things, that some of which have been already talked about tonight, that we are pursuing, and more that haven't been discussed as well, that we're working on from an operational and policy side too. So that's all in consideration. We're in touch with our regional representatives too, and understanding kind of what's happening around the region and kind of how different folks are responding. So I just wanted to acknowledge that piece too, and I appreciate you guys taking the time.
Okay. Thank you for that. Dan Sorrells, and then I'm going to call up 4 more. Maria Wasson, Stephen Miller, Lance Whitaker, and David Ello, if I said it right.
Council and Mayor, thank you for having this public session like this. I'm here to talk about housing, surprise, and more about the need for attainable housing. You know, it was certainly a huge issue on the election. I know everyone that was just involved in this recent election had to answer a lot of questions and got a lot of feedback on that. The reason that it is such a big issue is it turns out, you know, we're in a housing deficit. Now, it's not a housing shortage, which is a little different. A shortage would suggest that we'd have a lot of homeless people running around, and you may think we do, but we really don't. The deficit, and I heard the figure of 14,000 units is the deficit. I actually tried to do this on my own and figured it out. A little better, is around 13,000 units is what I'm calculating we need. So, it's an economic issue. One of the other speakers was talking about wanting to see a lot more shops around. Well, if we had more housetops, more people living here, there's more demand for that. And so you're going to have that kind of services. But it's also a solvable problem. One of the things that I know was talked about on the campaign trail by some of the candidates is making townhouses legal on single-family zoning. Right now, any kind of attached housing is not legal. And it's a simple, I think a very, very simple way of adding supply to what is obviously unmet demand. So there's a couple of things that I'd like to point out, though, that I'm the treasurer of Launch Longmont Housing. And I know we have been a controversial group in the past. We don't intend to be. What we really want to do is work with you. It's a very collaborative thing. Everyone on this on the council wants the best for Longmont, so do we. So there's a lot of things that we can do. One of the things that we have been successful at, as an example, is being a facilitator. Now, there were some of the people, I know some of you were on the council when the Bond Farm project, the 1313 Spruce, came up. And some of you were on the Planning and Zoning Commission. You knew how contentious that was. One of the things that we did in supporting the need for that housing is trying to work with both the neighborhood and with the developer. And to that end, we did 3 different charrettes, basically problem solving, brainstorming sessions. One focusing on what community needs, but it ended up with a design charrette where we met at the Walden Ponds facility there, where we had tables. Everyone was doing their own plan. The developer was there, members of the community were there, we had some experts, we had people that were land planners, architects, we had somebody that understood zoning for the city of Longmont, and then we voted on them. And the plan that came out at the end of that was very similar to what was approved by council and by Planning and Zoning Commission. Another area that we have been working with the city, trying to be collaborative, is on an ADU toolkit. Now this is, we're working right now with staff, and to that end, one of the things that we are going to do is have a website that will have all of the resources if you're wanting to do an ADU. And that would include some of the contractors, some of the lenders, designers, anything that you might need. So to that end, I think that we can, as Launch Longmont Housing, we can provide a lot of that social capital that I know those of you that were at the Pints and Perspectives, you might remember that. We're here to help you. And so anything that we can do, please let us know. We're here to help. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. Oh, just in time. Okay. Councilmember Popkin.
Dan, don't go anywhere. A question for you. You mentioned this ADU toolkit. For those of us who don't live in the housing world every single day, what's an ADU?
It is an the proper name is an auxiliary dwelling unit. They have other names, mother-in-law house or something like that, but it would be an accessory dwelling unit that you could build. You have a single-family house, and we're actually thinking about this. So in the back, maybe putting an ADU in that we could, as we age, we could retire in, have somebody in the front part of that is either a caretaker or needs housing, something like that.
And we have those already in Longmont, right? Like in Old Town, I think, and Prospect Newtown, I think, are the kind of neighborhoods that have the most ADUs currently already.
They
right?
do, and it's one of the things that we're really working toward is how to streamline that whole process. So the approval, you can do them, but it's very difficult. The way the process works right now is it's very disparate. So if you don't know your way around City Hall, it's going to be a lot more difficult. The ADU toolkit and the website and what we're doing with staff here is to augment, to help that, to streamline that.
Yeah, thank you. And just one broader macro comment. I appreciate your concerns about housing and growth. It certainly was a topic during the campaign. I think one of the things that this council is working on already together is, how do we manage the growth of Longmont? And that doesn't mean stopping growth, but it means, really focusing how and where we grow. And I think a lot of our time right now is being spent looking at the First and Main transit area and the housing that'll be part of that. We mentioned before, we're talking about the sugar mill too. We're looking at the Village of the Peaks and those areas, kind of those infill opportunities within the city that reduce pressure on existing neighborhoods while still kind of meeting some of the housing goals that we have. And so it's always going to be a balancing act. I appreciate your advocacy and passion for this, and we are working to address housing and be thoughtful towards neighborhoods too. So thank you.
No, you're welcome. No, and the idea behind townhouses or duplexes is you can increase density without really changing the character of a neighborhood. And also, as that happens, as you have those small shops that was being mentioned earlier, they become very walkable as well. So they don't necessarily have to increase traffic. They actually help the area.
So having a father who's an architect, a brother who's an architect, I have an uncle that's a lather. My husband's a plumber. I mean, if we brought in all of our resources, we have a tile setter, we have an engineer. I mean, we could build a town. But so one of the things that, as we looking at our zoning, looking at, making these incremental changes, there's also, I think, for me, coming from that perspective, looking at sewer tap, water tap. So then if these, you create a single family home and then you subdivide it into townhomes, there becomes an issue. So it's kind of looking not just at the surface, but what's happening underneath. So I think there's more than just, a zoning issue that, changing, but it's also looking at all the pieces that are not seen at the surface, but how can we make these changes, but still, have that capacity for people to, own their own sewer tap, and because that over time becomes expensive. And I talk to my brother frequently about what's happening in LA and when they're doing things like that, and what kind of the liability piece. So we're it's a work in progress, and it takes time, and we want to make sure that any policy that we do move forward on is sustainable, successful, and and it really does meet the needs of our community at large. So but no, thank you for that. Those are
well, and if you're
good
dividing
ideas.
a house
Go ahead.
two, you're really not increasing the footprint in a lot of ways.
No, you're not. You're
And
not.
so you're really not increasing. In a single family house, you could have 6 people. In a duplex, you could have 3 and 3. And in terms of the impact, it wouldn't be necessarily that significant, if at all.
No, and I'm thinking more like the plumbing, the tap, the water, and all those things underneath that my husband always reminds me of when I put potato peels down the sink. But but thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I get really mad at Okay, Maria, yeah.
Good evening. I'm Maria Wasson. Thank you for hosting this forum. It's a great way to hear voices from our wonderful community. I am here to talk about the airport. I've lived in Longmont for over 30 years, and the airport noise, especially in the last 3 to 4 years, has completely decimated my business. I used to work outside. I cannot anymore. I cannot be heard when I am instructing, giving lessons. So that's a real problem for me. We have had 3 airplane crashes this year, 1 in our field, 2 in adjacent fields out of Vance Brand Airport. I think it's about 1 a year deaths that happen from the parachute organization. And I think that's a problem for safety in our community. And I think my biggest question is, with the community being over 100,000, what is the compatibility of an airport within the city limits? That's my question to you. How safe is it for the residents to live here with an airport within the city limits?
Do we have anyone? Okay, go ahead. Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, it wasn't in the city limits. It wasn't close to the city limits when it was originally put into place, and only probably in the last 30 years has development encroached in on it. Sometimes we didn't always think about where we place some of our developments in the community. And I can see in your case, where you're trying to run a business that requires you to be outside directing people. Is it horseback riding? Mm-hmm. And so that makes it extremely difficult. And that's an obvious complication that I don't know how to necessarily fix, because it was there. Now, I think too, one of the residents that came up here earlier and said that there was this kind of fictitious idea of a pilot shortage that kind of has driven things. I think as we proceed, we're getting to some of the information that was kind of sold to everybody. Future pilots, community members, that this and the general public as a whole, that they were told that there was some sort of pilot shortage. So of course this explains all the new pilots trying to fly. And I think people see dollar signs when they go to look at the Bureau of Statistics, and that says the average pilot is making around $200,000 a year. Probably is disproportionate of the reality of what really is happening, but nevertheless, that people see stars in their eyes and they think, oh, that would be a great, lifelong career. And so I think we have got to maybe do a little bit better job here explaining what's actually going on, and maybe that'll help kind of solve some issues. And I think as we get into this study, I think we're going to see that there's some things that we can do to not make that are not specifically focused on quieter skies so much as maybe appropriate uses and how much the airport is used.
And I think somehow getting information to the pilots through the management or the airport advisory board that they really do need to follow the rules. I mean, airplanes fly 200-300 feet over our farm on a daily basis, and that's not legal, but I can't do anything about it. So I think that is something that behooves you as council to enforce these rules.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree. We're working on that. Stephen, go ahead.
There's Steve. I thought you were Steve.
He may be. Good evening. Thanks for having us here, Mayor and City Council. I'm Dr. Stephen Miller, and I'm at 10594 North 65th Street in Longmont. And I moved to my area, which is just west of the airport, and I was taking flying lessons at that time, along with horseback riding lessons, and it became difficult to do both, so I chose the horses. But I have no problem with airplanes and flying, and my concern is the regulations that make it so that I cannot be on the airport advisory board. And I don't understand that. I don't know how that rule came into effect, that you have to live within the city limits to be on the airport advisory board. My mailing address is Longmont, and I live on North 65th Street. So my property is directly off the west end of the airport. And I've had 2 planes that had engine control problems and landed in my field in the last year. Now the pilots are angry if they can't go in there and get their planes out. And I have a field out there that I try to grow hay on. And so I don't want them driving through my pastures, and they don't quite understand that. So I try to figure out a way to get them out of there, because they need to get their plane out. But these guys, one of the guys didn't even report that he had engine trouble and had to make it an emergency landing in my field. So I'm interested in the airport, and I thought I could maybe volunteer to be on the airport advisory board. However, I was told I couldn't be. And I'd still like to know, I'd like that to be changed. I live closer to that airport and have more train or more plane traffic probably than anybody. So the other problem I have is I I've been here for 30 years in my home, and used to be the airport manager would come by. If I had complaints about the airplanes and the noise, I would call up the airport manager, and all of them came over, would be there on busy times to see what we were going through. Even the interim manager, who was before the present manager, came out to try to see what we were dealing with. Because you can say you've got loud, planes all over your sky, but they don't understand it. But these guys came out, and I would call, and if I needed to talk to them, I could. This airport manager, I have never been able to talk to. He's never answered a call. He's never been out to my house. And I know that he used to teach out at the Rocky Mountain Airport. He was in that school, and maybe that's the connection why we're connected to Rocky Mountain, and having all of these planes coming in to land at our airport. And I agree with previous speakers about the numbers of planes. It didn't used to be bad living where we were living. You'd have planes go over once in a while. They were at an appropriate altitude. No longer. They are low. I don't know if you know what a round pen is, but it's a place where you work horses. And it's kind of a round pen, maybe the size of this area here. And I'd have 10 planes, one after another, go over that really small area. And I sometimes felt like when my wife was teaching in the arena, it drew more planes. I mean, as if they were seeing some action down there, and so everyone was, coming through to see what was going on. And so I agree with the complaints about the planes. When you look over, I'll watch the planes taking off, and then there's one, as soon as he gets high enough to turn, there's another and another. There's at least 4, it looks like, in a circle going around that are going to right over my house, right over my barn. And now they sometimes add helicopters. And the helicopters are even louder. One day they were high and it was not bad. The next day they are going right over the house and right over our barn, and it's incredibly loud. Thank you.
Thank you. So I do want to address the advisory board. So we had another resident who lives outside of the city limits and had commented about not being able to serve on advisory board. So that language is in our charter. So it actually take and correct me if I'm wrong, Harold, it would have to go to the vote of the people in order for it to, okay, yeah. So we'd have to put a ballot measure to have that actually changed. And so, looking at the cost of adding that measure on the ballot, is that, and then if we do bring forward and open up the charter, I would recommend that we'd have other things on there as well, not just that one issue, because it is costly to put measures on the ballot. So looking at that, so it's not anything that we as a council, as a body, can just go in and alter. It would actually have to be run through the general public for an election process.
As I was thinking about the comments that were made about FAA, and it's all pilots. And then you've got the Airport Advisory Board. You'd think you'd want some input from, I'm off the West End. I see the planes, and I know some of the things that happen. And I like to cooperate, and I don't care if they fly. But why not get input in the advisory board from people other than pilots?
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. Oh, Councilmember Popkin.
Yeah, thank you. It was Stephen, right?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. I appreciate it. I think the mayor adequately spoke to the procedural topic of participation there. But, more broadly, I think you raised a question of, what's the general intent of an advisory board and who do we want to serve on there? And, we had a little bit of a challenge with the most recent airport advisory board selection process. And I don't think this was personal to any member specifically, but there was a conflict of interest, and there was some frustration there among the public of, hey, they were 2 members who were interviewing for that advisory board who were also on the advisory board.
I read that.
And like, that's just, any organization, any board, like, that is just a fundamental problem of governance there. So we paused that, and we're rethinking our approach as this council now to figure out, hey, how are we going to responsibly fill this in the next cycle? And so even if it's not going to be members beyond the city's limits, legally speaking, we're actively thinking, like, what's the right makeup to help advise us there? Because the Airport Advisory Board is meant to serve us on the overall operations management and governance of the airport, not specifically in favor or against any one population or group. And so I think we're actively thinking about how does that help going forward. And part of the reason I think this council took the action that it did was, it's really important to us not to discourage participation from people who want to participate in our advisory boards, but maybe think that they aren't going to be considered because they aren't a pilot or they aren't, knowledgeable about a certain topic. And so we want to encourage people to participate, to apply to participate there, and to have then public confidence, even if they're not on the board, that that advisory board is adequately advising city council and that we're having multiple sources of information that we can look to when we want that. So, that's something we're actively thinking about. It's going to be an ongoing conversation, I think, for this council.
And I'd be constructive. I mean, I wouldn't want to be argumentative and close down the airport. I would just like to have helpful suggestions, if there's a problem that I see that maybe they're not aware of, that they can address it.
Yeah, and the best advisory boards are, and I know there's some frustration with some, some of the past airport advisory board, but I will say one of the policies that I cited earlier today, the saturated pattern policy that I mentioned earlier, actually came from that group. And it came from pilots who said, you know what, hey, we've seen this in other airports, maybe this is something we should consider. The past council took a look at that. We said, you know what, this makes sense. Let's go talk to the FAA about it. So, there's productive things that are coming there. We want to just make sure that those recommendations have credibility, confidence, and the right balance of voices.
The local pilots, by the way, also can't get in, they have to get in line to get up because there's so many planes coming in from Rocky Mountain that they just can't take off. They have to wait until the pilots let them in, and that's not fair to our pilots.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lance?
I just wanted to speak about this very quickly, and really, Councilmember Popkin hit the nail on the head. My message, just in listening tonight, this is my first time I've sat on this side of the dais in an open forum, is there's so much engagement in the community and so many people that want to provide their voice. Speaking specifically of AAB or any of our boards, especially boards like AAB and P&Z, Historic Preservation comes to mind, that have a great deal of technical knowledge. Having community voices as part of those conversations, even if you don't always have every detail of the technical knowledge down, is really important. So the more people that apply to our boards, the more conversation that we have about that, I think the better. So I appreciated that. And I just want to mention, I think we've heard a lot about the airport from folks tonight. I just want to shout out, in my experience, the base pilots that we have out at KLMO are good faith actors who the community largely wants to do things the right way, whether that be through noise abatement, the VNAP, whether that be through the different tools that exist. That has been my experience largely, is that is not where the tensions are rising. So I appreciated, really, Councilmember Popkin hit the nail on the head there, and I just wanted to mention it. So thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lance.
Yep, here it comes. Mayor and council and new council. I'm glad to see everyone, and we got a full council of members. My name is Lance Whitaker. I live at 1750 Collier Street. I've been a resident of Longmont for 45 years, as you all know. Today is National Disc Jockey Day. It is also National Cheese Lovers Day, and I know there's a lot of cheese lovers out here. Maybe not the Packer lovers, but cheese is great. It is also National Butter Crunch Day. A small reminder that George Burns would have been 120 years old today had he lived past 100. It is also Buzz Aldrin's birthday, and if you don't know who that is, that's the second person to step on the moon, not the first. A couple things about what some of the residents have been mentioning. The Sundance Film Festival, I think the Boulder County Fairgrounds would be a great place to showcase some of that. I'm sure Longmont Public Media would just love to join in on that. The airport, I love the airport. I've been here for 44 years. A shame that so many people have gone up against the airport the last couple of years. If we could find a way to keep the airport and not turn it into a park, it would be great. Other than that, I'm going to let the rest of my time fail. So thank you and have a nice day.
Oh, thank you. You too. David?
Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. My name's Dave Elo. I'm a commercial property owner in town, mostly along Main Street here. I own 206 South Main, 510 2nd Avenue, 201 Terry Street, 704 Main, 829 Main, 1450 Main. I appreciate all your effort along Main Street to upgrade everything. At the same time, if any of you would like to know what it's like to try and create attainable housing, or take a second floor unit and try and turn it into anything, or do just about anything in town, I'd love to meet with you and tell you about it. But that's not really why I'm here right now. I'm here for a more specific thing, and that is, I was wondering what you're doing with the passing of the marijuana hospitality legislation. Because I know something passed at the end of the last period, and some follow-on stuff has to happen, and nothing's happened. But I want you to know.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, we'll let you do your time, yeah.
Besides creating a whole bunch of jobs up and down the street, we could create some more jobs if you follow through with that, probably 10 to 15 full-time employees right down the street. So we're kind of interested to maybe move it along, and we could actually do something and have an interesting business and create more value. So just wondering what's going on.
Okay, so we were in the process, then somebody made a motion. So I'm going to let you speak to that.
I love that you're letting me speak to things. This is fantastic. Yeah, this is a great trend. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate the comments and question. I don't think I made this motion, but I can certainly clarify where things are. Did I? Okay, I might have. This was like 10 months ago. All right. Well, they're all letting me talk, so I'll take it. Dave, my understanding is that the policy passed. The implementation at the code level did not. It got stagnated in a tie vote. And I'll be honest and transparent, I was one of the naysayers in that discussion. I won't go into the policy debate right now, but that's where that is in the process right now, in that it's stalled because it hasn't come back up. So from an implementation standpoint, again, that's not regulating your personal use of marijuana. It's from a hospitality licensing standpoint, that has not advanced further at this moment. More than happy to sit down with you and talk about that separately. I'd love to learn your perspective on kind of what you're seeing there. There were some concerns that I don't think we, at least myself and Councilmember Christ, and maybe, I'm trying to think who else was that Mayor Peck at the time, former Mayor Peck?
Might have been, yeah.
That we had, that I don't think were fully addressed or resolved before we were implementing it. So I think it's more of an implementation challenge than anything else from my perspective. So I'm more than happy to sit down with you outside of this and get into that. And I think you own a couple properties in Ward 2, so I'm more than happy to hear what you're thinking about doing.
Okay.
Yeah, appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so the next group, and I think it's Meg French. Okay, Stuart Kuzminski, Aisha Namari, and Pavel Ivanov. So if you all can make your way forward, and we'll start with Meg.
Hello, Council. Thanks for having us tonight, and I appreciate it. My name's Mia French.
Oh, Mia. Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
No, I'm sorry.
I have some things to say, but everything that being last, kind of at the end of the order here, everything that I have on my sheet, I have been spoken about. I'm, really involved in the airport situation. So I'm not going to read what I have written because it's all been said, but I would like to, I don't know if you guys do this ever, would like to invite you all out to my place, right at 65th and Nelson, and have our tea, I think of a coffee talk once a month maybe, or once every couple months. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Monthly.
Is it like a weird thing to invite you all over and really have you sit down and listen to the deafening noise in the sky? try to talk over it, try to be present, try to enjoy a nice outing at my home and see what you guys think about that. Could I offer that to any of you or all of you? How do I do that? It's really nice. It's 5 acres. We have horses, we have goats, and we have 4-H. My kids are all 4-H members, and we moved out there to enjoy our hobby farm 13 years ago. And you were asking how long. One of the speakers was, it's only in the past year or two that it's just been a constant, problem for us. But the kids are all starting to move away now, and my husband and I are trying to think maybe it's our turn to just, it's just not, it's not nice anymore. But I would really would like to invite you all, or a few of you. So when is the next coffee talk?
It's next month. We just had
Oh, you
ours
just had it.
last Saturday.
Okay,
so
well, I'll
it's
email
like-
you and
Yeah.
make kind of a formal invitation, and we'll see where we go from there.
Okay, and then we'll run it by legal and liability.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I don't know if it's really, I don't know if you can really do it, but I thought I'd at least invite you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay, well, thank
Yes.
you so much
Okay,
for
and then
listening.
Councilmember Prieto, go ahead.
It might be more beneficial for you to come have coffee with me so we don't hear the airport noise.
Well, that's the whole point.
Yeah. What I want to say is during my campaign, I was knocking doors out by the airport. And I understand what you're saying. There was at one point where I was talking to a woman about why she should vote for me. And we were interrupted quite a few times.
Yeah.
And it was so loud that it was hard to just even have a conversation. And so when I hear residents talk about quality of life, I hear you.
Or do you?
And I do, and I think this council does, right? We are a fairly new council for the most part, a makeup. And what I can say, we are extremely committed to finding solutions for our residents who just want to go outside, enjoy the mountains, and have a nice cup of coffee in the morning without being pestered by airplane noise. Now, granted, I live next to a train, right? So there's the tolerable, typical noise that we get, but not when it's constant and it's a nuisance.
Right.
And so I just wanted to say, I've heard the noise. I do not disagree with our residents. This council is committed to finding solutions. There's many nuances, so we're just combing through them. So hang tight, hang in there to all of my folks who are pushing for change, for peace, for a peace of mind. We are working at this, and we're hopeful to find these solutions and bring some valuable solutions to our residents
Okay.
here soon.
Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah, I've been to a few meetings in the past few months, and I was remiss if I didn't get up and just say something. So thank you for listening, and we appreciate you all, and have a good night. Hopefully it won't go too much longer.
Thank you. Councilmember Kalkofer.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm new to the dais, so I am welcoming any field trip opportunities. So I have my card here, and whoever's listening out there, I'm happy to meet you wherever you are to understand your part of the city. Since I am new here on the dais, I want to learn as much as I can. So I welcome any invitation to any outing because I learn by seeing. So thank
Great.
you.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Stuart? I think, no, it's Stuart Kuzminski. Is he here? Nope, okay. Aisha Namari? Nope. She also left, okay, and then, so, Pavel?
Good evening, Council. Today I have a few things I want to touch upon. That's a change. And I would like to hear some feedback if possible. We'll start with the favorite topic, flock. I think there might be some confusion between council members as to what citizens are against in regards to flock and similar systems. I won't speak for myself, but I think that kind of resembles what everybody actually thinks about. I don't think I'm against any cameras in general. I think we all understand that if my phone has a camera, it'll be hypocritical to say no cameras in cities at all. I do, however, believe that any automatic AI data processing that is able to track vehicles and people without their consent in public erodes trust in the PD and creates an unhealthy feeling of being caged, imprisoned, and caught. The difference between red light cameras, speed cameras, and flock and similar cameras is that flock continuously records movement of vehicles and people. They're intended to track people. Whereas the red light cameras and speed cameras would only take a photo of you if you did something wrong. We can talk about this in the framework of maybe the next system, if we do decide to go with one, should only be able to be enabled for someone. Let's say I have my car and I don't know, oh my God, I killed somebody. Then the police department will be able to track that vehicle to find where it's traveling, to find the person. And I think that's a good compromise. I think that protects the privacies of citizens who are, not violating anything. And then it also gives the police department the tools they are really asking for. I also want to mention something we all missed out on, and that is taxes, our favorite thing. When we pay a police officer, we pay someone who would spend the money locally, whose money gets into the city's budget one way or another. Taxes on, whatever they would buy, property taxes, whatever. That person would buy, sell, trade, invest in the city. Some faceless corporation would not be investing in the city. I think we should invest in our people. I think we should invest in us, and that's the better thing to do in long term. And I also want to come back to the point that me personally I find the most important, that it does not matter whether it helps solve crime or not. Some things are just immoral. And here's actually a story that happened to me like a week ago. I watched a video on YouTube. I have those binge nights where I will watch a lot of videos, and that night was for courts. And that one was not about Greenland, Ukraine, or any other buzzwords out there. There was a video of a daughter of a killed man who brought him back via AI for court proceedings. They used photos and videos and audio of his voice to make an avatar of him, and the avatar testified. He made a victim impact statement that the murderer took away him from his family, that it was an awful, awful, devastating situation, that he'll never play with his kids again or help them in their life. That wasn't legal to do. The court listened, the court took it into consideration and even used it while getting to the verdict, even mentioning him by name as if it was an actual person talking to them. All that happened, and it was legal. It doesn't mean that it's right. On your desk, you may find printouts if the clerk was able to get it to you. For the camera, it's this one over here, if I would spin around right, and this one over here. That I created using AI. I don't think AI is bad. I think AI has its uses. Of course, there are better ways of using it, and I think mass surveillance is one of them. But here we go with the second thing. It didn't hurt anyone. It didn't violate any moral boundaries. I don't like some of the electricity and water concerns that data centers create, but it's definitely better than mass surveillance. Let's talk about what I actually created and proposed to you. That is a basic render of how we can pedestrianize Main Street. I understand that we have a state highway going through there, but it is an excuse. I think Main Street should be lively. I just think people should be able to walk there, bike there. We don't have a bike lane on the Main Street. That is awful. Every time I go there in my car, I'm thinking, oh my God, if I didn't have a car, how would I even go around there? And with the RTD pulling away the bus stops there and putting just a faceless sign, go there to figure out what's going next, that doesn't help. I have no idea how to go there. Let's say I'm homeless and I don't have a phone. I have no idea how to even figure out where the bus is now. Now, I think another thing that cities should look into, understand this is a massive expense, and I think it's another thing that is a long-term thinking thing, and it's hard to make those decisions. I understand that nobody is ever going to jump ahead and say, yeah, let's do it right now, but I think train cars could suit the Main Street perfectly. On the render that AI made, the train tracks on the sides, think of the median. Think of having a closed loop train there that could revitalize the Main Street. I think that would really be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So our last three, we have Strider, John Lemke, and Scott Stewart. It's our last three, yes.
Sorry I couldn't get down here on time. I tried.
No worries. So, go ahead, you're up. You may start speaking. Strider, it was just the timer, so you can go ahead and start talking.
They're already taking my time away, and
I know, so-
I haven't even said who I am. You have
So
to say that.
he'll reset it.
Go
ahead.
Strider Benston, 951 17th. People often ask me, how come you don't speak at Martin Luther King events? This is Martin Luther King week, the whole week they dedicated. And how come you're not permitted to speak? Well, I'll give you a clue. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we spent 2 years in Alabama, especially around Bloody Sunday and Selma and the March on Montgomery. And he was my guide, my colleague, and my friend. A guide indicates the right way to go, perhaps climbs a few mountains ahead, blazes a trail, points out some dangers and pitfalls and the signs of progress. A colleague travels with you on the journey into battle, shares thoughts and plans, defeats and victories, parties and funerals. A friend acknowledges and appreciates your contribution, recognizes your perils and the wounds and sacrifices, along with your hopes and dreams. The faith and courage which impel one in the struggle for truth, justice, beauty, and dignity. A friend overflows with compassion. This is Martin to me. In May of 1965, he sent me on a mission. I'm still on that mission. Well, I was born in Tennessee, raised up in Arkansas, and struggled in Alabama. I done some loving and some crying, came mighty close to dying, 'cause I never didn't give a damn. We've wasted all of our lives and I wish that we'd be happy, trying to run from all the heartaches and the fears. We got to face and climb each mountain on the journey up to freedom. The steps we take are measured by the tears. I've had my head full of confusion, my heart tied up in knots, my body lying busted in a cell. Ain't no games to keep on playing, set your mind to what I'm saying. We've got to learn to love our fellow man. We've wasted all of our lives in the wish that we'd be happy, trying to fill the empty spaces with a game. Can't seem to find the time to listen for the pure and simple message. The answer is blowing in the wind. We color all our wounds with calluses. The callus on our soul is tough and strong, a heavy weight to bear, but it keeps us all protected in security from injury, preventing us from learning how to care. Oh, the lessons in the learning and the teachings in the song, the answers in the stillness of the night. If we stop our minds from worrying how we're going to get along, perhaps we won't be blinded by the light. We have to give ourselves away while learning to be free. The pain and heartaches we can learn to bear in service to the futurehood of sisterhood and brotherhood. The truth's revealed in learning how to care. I'll skip to another one. So may your hands always be busy. May your hands be ever busy. May your wings keep soaring high. May the dreams that bring you courage light the rainbows in your sky. May the faith which gives you meaning keep your heart forever strong. And may the days that bring you presents linger long. Yes, may these days that bring us presents linger long. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you. Okay. John Lemke.
Good evening. My name is John Lemke. I'm sure that I know several of you know. Jake and Crystal, you may think that you're the happiest people for beating me in the last election. My wife, I assure you, is much happier that I'm not doing this every night. She made the comment as I was leaving to come here. Good evening. I wasn't entirely sure what topic I was going to talk about, but I knew I wanted to come because there's several I wanted to touch on. First, I want to thank everybody here for your support on ranked choice voting. For those of you that don't know, I'm the vice president of ranked choice voting for Colorado. This is something that I'm advocating across the state on, and something that many of you probably don't know. The action we've taken here has made its way to the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State actually has to do a few things to enable cities that span multiple counties to run ranked choice voting. And because of what we have done, the Secretary of State has taken action, gotten some feedback from some county clerks along with our organization to help make that successful. I also learned there's 12 other cities in Colorado that have active civic groups that are pushing ranked choice voting, which is really exciting. A big part of the reason that I learned that it's valuable is not just as a voter, but as a candidate. To be honest, I thought about running in Ward 2, and I was like, Matt is very similar to my ideas. And I almost didn't run because I looked at Alex and I was like, Alex is very similar to my ideas. But somebody was like, you know, we really need to get the ideas out there, and it would be great in the future where somebody can come out and just try to spread the ideas that they want people to know about without the fear of splitting the vote. Because I talked to several of you about how fearful you were. And it's real, because somebody who I'm friends with, who was like, you're my top choice, I didn't vote for you, John, because I did not think you could win. So it's real, right? Like, somebody who's friends with me told me that, and it was we all saw the results, and they were correct. But here's one of the things that I really wanted to touch on, why I think it's important. It's housing affordability. According to the city's own data, I've talked about this, brought it up, 14,000 households are rent burdened, which means that they are paying more than 30% of their income in rent. Most of the people that were here have left. If I could ask people in the audience, how many of you are rent burdened? Only a few? When I asked when we were at, what's that? Yeah, anyways. So here's a very specific ask. We have a state senator, Nick Hinrichsen. I don't know if I could pronounce it. But I would ask that you contact Karen McCormick and Katie Wallace and ask them to support Senator Nick Hinrichsen's efforts to legalize a change to the way that we levy property taxes. The technical term is land value tax. You might hear it called universal building exemption. You might hear it as land value return. But this is literally legalizing cities to levy property taxes differently. I think that's a pretty small step. Not unreasonable. I can send you details. I can't hit it all in like a minute and a half, but it is a progressive tax. It would allow us to reduce taxes on homeowners and shift the burden to wasteful parking lots and land speculators. I went to a great presentation by Senator Hinrichsen and the Progress in Poverty Institute in Denver, where they presented the results if they had done it in Denver. And it is encouraging to see that it lines up the people who have the lowest income would have their taxes reduced the most. Basically people in apartment buildings and people in small houses, townhomes, which I think a lot of you would really be supportive of. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. I'm also going to ask for a couple other things. I know that Alex, Jake, and Matt have been to my neighborhood. My neighborhood is illegal in most of Longmont. My daughter can walk out of our house and go to a friend's house without crossing a street or without crossing someone's driveway. I would like for us to legalize more types of housing in more parts of the city, because right now, 65% of the city, You can only build single-family detached homes, which are the most expensive types of homes to build. If we're going to get serious about helping people afford a place to live, we have to get serious about allowing less expensive homes to be built in the city. Thank you.
Oops, I thought I saw a mic. Okay. Scott Stewart.
We'll cut this one short.
Start the clock. Go. Mayor, members of council, really good to be here tonight. I think a lot's been said about the airport tonight, so I could say a lot more, but I'd hope that we can all agree that there's a better way forward for the airport. We might not know what the answer is tonight, but I think it needs to start with honest representation of what we're looking to get out of the airport as a community. A lot of these rules that we have, the airport fund, it already states, it talks about enforcement of airport rules and regulations. It talks about livable centers and corridors, how it's supposed to interact with the community and stuff. A lot of this stuff, we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We can go back to the pattern, which is, if you're doing a flight pattern, it should be a half mile to 3/4 mile turn left downwind. That's from 2011. We don't have to talk about, Councilmember Popkin was talking about the saturation policy before. If they just stick to the pattern, you don't fit more than 3 in there. All you got to do is this. You don't need a saturation policy. Just stick to the pattern, which affects the influence zone. They're flying beyond the influence zone, and they're flying over the city, which is another thing that we've said in the past you should avoid. It's right on the bottom of it. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's all here. Airport fees, it talks about fees and the airport being a enterprise zone and how it's supposed to cover itself. We don't have to ask the city for a discount on the services that the city provides. That's done by the taxpayers. Talk about a little bit more financial stuff. You're going to hear stuff about, we got to, raise the tie-down fees and this and that. The lowest tie-down fee, this is a monthly fee that the city receives, the city meaning the airport receives, $32 for January of 2025. $32. You run an airport on $32? The highest one was $1,049.87 in August of 2025. You running an airport on $1,000 in a month? The numbers are here. Let's take a look at them. I got stuff about the self-sustainability stuff from the FAA. That's the requirements. Once we take their grants, we're supposed to be able to pay to maintain that asset for the next 20 years. We're not even saving for that. You really want to see the impact of the airport? Take a look at your summary of sales and use tax activity by region. Airport, 20 times lower than the next lowest one. Honest to God, just look it up. You'll be embarrassed to see this. We're asking experts for information, whether we're asking them for what our fees should be or this and that, what have you. We've hired a lawyer in the past, Kaplan Kirsch. We got to be asking the right questions as well. We asked Kaplan Kirsch if we could, does Longmont have the ability to restrict touch and go operations at Vance Brand Airport? Good Lord, we know the answer to that. Why are we paying a lawyer to answer that question? That's ridiculous. That came out of us because, granted, we want to be transparent and we want to, let everybody know that we're being upfront about it. But if we know the answer to the question, that's the wrong question. The question is, how do we deal with the excessive activity that we have and still be in compliance with our FAA requirements? Wow, I didn't think I'd go on a rant here. Noise is measured by complaint. There's technology out there. Put freaking sensors in or whatever. You don't have to have a single phone call from here forward. Just put the technology out there and forget about us screaming on the telephone. You know, an airplane operation, one airplane can have as many operations and it counts towards the operations. You can do 100 complaints, it only counts as one. Why is this imbalance there? Look at that, 8 seconds. Anybody want to reply?
In 4, 3,
Anything.
2,
There's a better way forward.
1. Yeah.
Y'all have a great night. Thank
Oh,
you.
thanks, you too. Okay. So, we are now to mayor and council comments. Okay, so we'll start with Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank everybody who came out tonight and spoke their piece. And years ago, when I was on council in 2007 and through 2011, we brought this and Coffee with Council forward as an important tool to find out where the community was, and it has never let us down. I think it's one of the most important things that we ever did as a council during that time frame. It really kind of guided us and gave us some good input from the community and let us occasionally hear Strider sing. So thank you, Strider.
Councilmember Kalkofer.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks to everybody who stuck around for the entire evening. Thanks to those who came and spoke before. I love hearing from people, so this is a great opportunity to hear from you for longer than 3 minutes. So thank you all for coming. Thanks for coming prepared. Really appreciate your time. I've learned a lot in this last 3 hours or 2 hours, so thank you so much.
Okay, Councilmember Marcin.
Thank you, Mayor. I just, again, want to reiterate thanks to everybody. And we have so many great storytellers in our community and so many great, you know, I just finished a book about Longmont's history, about the characters of Longmont, and I'll share it with folks. But the tradition of that continues, and this open forum was such a cool opportunity to hear from folks. The one thing I did want to mention was that I think when you're sitting out there, as I have a lot, you hear people up on the dais say things like, well, you know, we're working on that. I didn't believe it either. I really didn't. I really was like, well, you're not. I promise you, just about everything that was shared tonight, whether it be concerns about, you know, making KLMO an asset for the whole community, whether it be issues regarding we have heard it, we hear our community, and we are working on it. It doesn't show up in public all the time because of, you know, whatever issue, whether that's sunshine laws or whether that's just how governing functions. But our staff is amazing and does incredible work every single day to move the priorities of this community forward as represented through this council. So I also wanted to thank staff for sticking around, for hearing voices, because these conversations really do shape where we go as a council. And trust me, we are working on it. We are getting there, even if it doesn't feel like it all the time.
Thank you. Councilmember Popkin.
You just finished a book on Longmont's history. What do you teach, history or something? I'll say ditto on the thanks. I want to specifically thank, you know, I know there are a lot of, you know, there's some exciting things happening in Longmont right now. There's also a lot of challenging things happening around the city, the region, the state, and the world right now. And I just want to say I appreciate everyone coming out, and whether you spoke on kind of changing our election laws to make them more representative, or you spoke about local concerns around our airport and quality of life and everything in between. You know, I think what also stood out to me was the thoughtfulness and the civility of how everyone showed up tonight, and I really appreciate that. I guarantee you we're going to have more challenging issues that come up in the coming months and years, and I hope we can all continue to channel that so that we can have productive dialogues. I will echo everything Councilmember Marsing said about, like, we're doing our best to work on this, and we are working on things. You know, people often think like funding is the biggest obstacle in government, and it's one of them for sure. It's a major obstacle, but there are really two. It's funding and time. And, we all, unfortunately, just because we're elected here, we aren't blessed with like extra days in our week or extra hours in our day, and nor are the staff that we have. And so, adding more staff costs more money. That brings more time and capacity, but we're also trying to juggle the budget and responsible and efficient government too at the same time. So appreciate everyone's civility, everyone's patience. I know that can be excruciating sometimes. And also everyone's understanding and hopeful trust that we are actually trying to make progress, both in small ways and quite substantial ways. So thank you so much for coming out. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the month and 2026.
Thank you. Yeah, I echo what you all said. Ditto. So I do want to, so last Saturday, Councilmember Prieto and I had our, her first, coffee with council. And one thing that I really appreciated, and I saw it again tonight, was just the positivity. I mean, even as you are bringing forward issues that you're passionate about, you're emotional about, you've been negatively affected by, but the civil discourse, I cannot even begin to emphasize how important that is, and helping us to get things done is, just having that civil discourse, positive civil discourse. And, that wasn't always the case. When I sat in open forums, we had people yelling at us, and I'm like, oh my God, I just been here like a few months and I'm out. And so just, I really appreciate that with the community. And, one of the things I asked last time was, give me something positive, what you like about Longmont. And, and I heard that kind of resonating throughout the night. So I greatly appreciate this and learned a lot. I took several notes, so I've got it all on tap here. So thank you very much. And do we have city manager remarks? No, he's got nothing. Okay. City attorney remarks and nothing. Okay. Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. Okay, and it has been seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.